All right. So
And
sorry I was a little bit late. I literally just got out on another meeting about something. I can't even remember the half of it now. So quick coffee. And
well,
what you
want to
guys
welcome
been up
everybody
to?
because we're live on YouTube right now.
Hey,
Oh, we better be interesting then.
interesting.
I'm surrounded by Brits, at least on my screen. I'm right in the middle.
You're in the middle of mine as well. You're like
Brits
the
to the
glamorous
left
one
of
in the
me.
middle, and we're all like, yeah, Brits to the right. Here I am.
Jokers to the right, yeah. Well, I'm in the middle, so thank you. I'm in my
It's
middle.
a lovely sandwich.
So Dave and I were talking the other day, and we usually get pretty deep really quick. And I've been wanting to do this on for a few different reasons, but now, Jesus, I mean, everything's changed in the last year. So I don't even know where to start. So I'll leave it with you guys have got all kinds of new news and different things going on. And there's
Undoubtedly.
I guess there's going to be a merging of the minds here.
There's some stuff going on, and there's an awful lot of stuff not going
Yeah.
on.
Right. Well, Dave, where do you want to start?
God.
Let's start with introducing everybody. I think everybody on your side of the pond knows Verity.
Yeah. Yeah. For one reason or another, they probably
we were just
do.
talking
Yeah.
about TikTok, the pros and cons.
Not my only
you're
fan.
from
No,
Thea, right?
no,
That's right, yeah.
Hi, I'm Verity White.
I've had you guys on.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm from Thea, the one and only. I say one and only. There's one in Italy and one in America as well. So you know, I'm in good company. But the original, yeah. Hello, everyone.
And Dave and Keith, you guys are from two different entities that are somewhat becoming one. Is that what I'm gathering here?
When to become one.
Girls, yeah, nice link there. That's what we're talking. Yeah, Dave. Well, Dave runs a management company anyway, which you can talk about. But yeah, I have a small rock record label, WDFD Records, and Dave is now an integral part of that.
He's the T-boy. No.
The T-boy, yeah. Thea and Verity are both on our label. I'm very proud we are to have them.
Absolutely. We're very proud to be on WDFD.
Well, you've got no choice as you're my son. Yeah.
What?
That's
It's all right.
perfect time to tell you, huh?
Where are we streaming this to? Who's watching?
This is like The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. You are my son.
I am your father.
And I've got both hands. We're good.
Whoosh.
So we're just trying. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what it's like. It'd be very interesting to hear what it's like for you over there. But over here, it's just a shambles at the moment. There's no direction. There's no there's no
hope anymore. There's no hope.
leadership.
Help me, Obi-Wan.
We don't know what we can and can't do, and it's very, very difficult to plan for it. I think probably in your conversations, Dave has told you about his festival, Call of the Wild, and what's happened there, and that's just typical, really, of what's going on in Britain at the moment.
Well, I can't understand a few things. It's such a I don't know. I want to call it. It's so many conflicting stories and information. 1 minute, things are.
Welcome to our government.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay for them to have like God knows how many people in Wembley to watch a bloody football match, but it's not okay for a festival to go ahead, which is like.
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Are more equal than others.
Oh, it's kind of like over here last year when Walmart was allowed to be open because they sold food, yet you could go and shop through the entire store. Yet, some of the other biggest chains in the country, in the history of this country, weren't allowed to open for 8 or 10 months. So, it was like favorites were played. But I noticed, I didn't know the download pilot, what was it, download pilot? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Happened until after it happened over there. And I thought I was paying attention. So I couldn't understand how it went from nothing to that.
The guy that owns it all, Festival Republic, is a big Tory donor, from what I understand.
Oh, for
So
fuck's
that
sake.
probably
Of course he
explains
is,
a lot of
of
it,
course he is.
right?
Careful,
And-
Dave. We're still early, mate.
Yeah, I know. But at the end of the day, when you look at all of these things, nobody's taking care of the people like us. Nobody gives a shit
No.
about the people like us.
It is all
They're
political.
putting everything into this. It's big corporations, and it's not just music. It's like motorsport, right? Formula One gets to have 140,000 people at Silverstone in a couple of weeks, but the British Superbikes that started up at Knockhill this weekend gets 1,000. Sorry, start at Alton Park this weekend, I think. When they go to Knockhill, it's 1,000 again in next week or 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So where's the symmetry? Where's the we're all in this together crap?
And it's really interesting as well, because this week, I believe, there's a number of musical, like the Music Venues Trust and a few other people that have got together, and they're actually taking the government to court for their lack of assistance, help, and clear guidance to the whole of the entertainment industry over this last period of time. So, we're not just a small voice here. There's, everybody, unless you are a Tory donor or, a massive, super, big deal that is just not getting the support that they need.
The
Even
desperation's
Elton
real.
John's leapt into it now, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Elton John's got involved.
Yeah,
Elton
tiara's
John
good.
and Andrew Lloyd Webber. Yeah.
His tiara's
Oh,
come off
awesome.
and he's throwing it around the place again. So there's something not right, because he can't go
Yeah.
on tour properly.
He
He can afford to go on tour properly, but
Yeah, he's one of the few
He
that
won't.
can actually afford to go back to Europe, because the rest of us can't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
another thing,
that's a whole nother
right?
section. That's a whole nother conversation, though. That's Brexit, isn't it?
Well, I guess even Aerosmith over here is having trouble planning their European tour next year, to the point where they said, screw it, we're going to wait till 2023 now.
Yeah.
That's Aerosmith. So this came up last year, and I remember I was talking to Kaz from Heavy Rock Show. Kaz, and she was saying how was it going? And I started to look into this, how your government, and it happened here, but we got on it quicker, I think. And I think we had, people naturally over here, people scream at everything. So, but how the government said, well, you know what? Too bad, you're just musicians. Go back to school, learn something else, and get another job.
Yeah.
That was the attitude.
Yeah.
Did you? I know us four will have seen it. You probably. I'll try and find a link to one of the adverts that they showed, Mike. And
It's really insulting.
It was a ballerina who was leaping around doing what ballerinas do.
Mhm.
And basically the whole context of the advert was, right at the end of it, it said her next job could be cybersecurity.
Retrain.
Yeah.
Right? Never mind being
Yeah.
a ballerina and all the effort and all those hours that you've put into it, the injuries and the training
Yeah.
and whatever
Never mind
else.
our 1.3 billion, never mind our 1.3 billion kind of entertainment industry, which we export to the rest of the world. Never mind only that. Retraining cyber,
Right. And I
11,
also said just the money generated in any town that a gig comes through, from somebody stopping to get gas, to taking in the train, to eating there, to, just the tax money, all of that. I couldn't understand, like, where did they forget about all that? Or did they just not care about it anymore? That money is so inconsequential that there's other things going on. Like you said, big money makes big money. And any loss can be made up on the back end somewhere else. But right now, from over here, everything looked, let me say it this way, personally, 6 weeks ago, it looked, oh my God, what are they going to do this summer? So I heard, okay, July or somewhere mid-June, things are going to happen. Then I saw things starting to happen, and then I realized it was only one thing. Now, my question is, like, the smaller clubs and venues, are you guys able to, like, are they allowing any live music? Are they even open? I don't even know what to ask.
Some are.
I mean, some are. Yeah,
Some.
some are. If they can become COVID secure, and I'm sure Dave knows a lot more about this with the Call of the Wild.
That's my
stuff.
question.
But if,
like, what is?
yeah,
what
COVID
is-
secure. Well, it depends on if you're a Tory donor
because you sound like you're in the position we were last year, like where the governor of New York was saying to the city of New York, and they were muscling back. They got out on the streets, and they allowed the outdoor dining. Forget about music. They made music illegal in the state of New York. They actually wrote like a bylaw for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, people weren't allowed to sing in bars. You couldn't have any music on or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, whatever. But what you were just saying about making it COVID secure, where you had to have the correct HVAC system, filtration system, blah, 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 blah. All right now, which is a waste of money because we're past that now. Anyone that spent the money on that, whatever. But we went from that last year, which it sounds like that's where you are now, to right now, everything's 100% in New York City. And I don't even know how it happened, but it just happened literally within 3 months.
Yeah, I think the thing here is on the 19th of July, we will be 100%. All the restrictions disappear on the 19th of July if he takes us into step 4, right?
It just disappears. Yeah.
COVID stops existing. It's gone.
That
Right?
was the other question. Like, what's the barometer for that date? What's the difference between today being with the 28th of
Who knows?
Nobody
They say
knows.
they're tracking metrics and they're tracking the ratio of infections to hospitalizations to deaths. But I really think that our government sadly are listen to data anyway, which is why they didn't lock down quickly enough in the first place. Now it's got to the point that our economy has lost so much money that they can't push it back any further. And so they are at a point whereby that's it. They've got to open.
Now, let me ask the next question then. After all this has happened, has the government over there, is there any kind of what we call PPP over here, which is basically the loans that are really grants because it's a loan until you can't pay it back and then you don't have to anyway?
Yeah.
Has the government, is there anything written in or being offered, not just for music, restaurants and anything like that, just in general for the mom and pops, the small businesses? Is there anything?
There's been little bits. There's been processes and Corona. What do they call them? Bounce back loans, things like that.
Yeah.
But like as Call of the Wild, we are a fully registered limited company. We weren't entitled to a single cent of any of it because we don't have full-time staff. We don't have offices. We don't own buildings. There's none of that. So essentially, in the eyes of the government, we don't exist.
Wow.
Right. And we don't have staff and buildings and offices because that's cost prohibitive. We hire staff for the event, and there's 4 of us basically that run the festival from year to year all the way through. So we do everything ourselves. Then when we get to the event, we bring the staff in to run the event. So we weren't entitled to a damn thing, and we tried everything.
Now, Verity and Kyle, I want to ask them from the other side as the artists. I don't know your situation, whether your music is full-time or not. If it is, it is. But as artists, you basically just had to take it.
Yeah.
There's no way to recuperate the loss.
I lost my full-time job because of it.
At the same time.
Yeah, so I lost a tour. I lost every gig date I was booked in for. Lost a bassist in the process, and then lost my full-time job. So I was just wrecked, absolutely destroyed. I had universal credit, and the Tory party believe that £90 a week will feed a family. They're wrong. Thankfully, things are different now. But yes, I'm one of millions and millions over here with similar stories, some a lot worse. And I'm fortunate I've got a support network with these guys and an amazing family. But the government weren't there for me. There was no advice I could be given because I get it. It's unprecedented, which means they didn't know what they were doing. But they were the only people we could turn to. And we were waiting for answers. And still now, questions we had back then haven't been answered. So shambles is the word.
I mean, I knew from the outside looking in it was bad, but I didn't really understand just how bad.
And I think it's important, like Carl said, he lost his job. You know, loads of people have lost their jobs, and they've put in this scheme to try and stop people making people redundant. Oh God, what have they called it? I've completely lost what it's called. Oh, furlough scheme. Furlough. So what they're doing is that they're paying like 80% of it was 80%, I think it's gone down a little bit now, of their salary for you to keep them on and keep them on the payroll, so they don't have this massive crisis of people not having jobs. And then they'll have the same problems that they had in, was it the 80s or something, whenever loads of people lost their jobs. So they've put in this furlough scheme, but what they've not thought about is, like, as soon as that ends, all of those people that have been on the furlough scheme are going to be redundant, and so they're going to be in the same situation. They've just delayed the inevitable.
Just kicked it down the road.
That's even with the furlough schemes. Like my day job's quite a bit different to normal. Let's put it that way. And for the first time ever, really, I took a staff position, still flying out to go and do what I do. Yeah. But in October 2019, I took a staff position, did a job out in West Africa, came home, and everything shut down, right? I was on furlough until the end of August 2020. So what, 8 months on furlough, 7 months on furlough. And then the company I was working for at the time decided that that was enough of that. We're basically going to sack everybody and then rehire you back on 0 hours contracts. So they don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
But before I could go to work somewhere else, I had to give them 6 weeks notice, but they only had to give me 24 hours notice to get on a plane and fly somewhere in the world, which is why I went back to what I know in contracting. But that's what's happened in so many places. They've got, right, we don't need to do that anymore. Everybody can go on 0 hours contracts. We've got no liability for any of you. Game over. But those 0 hours contracts count as being employed.
You can't get any help.
You can't get any help.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have this in the States, Mike, but we have these things called 0 hours contracts, and it just means you are employed, but you are not
salaried,
not guaranteed to get any income. You can literally be employed on 0 hours, so you don't.
Not like unions over here.
Yeah, we've got.
There's no work. You're still under their thumb, but you can't move, but you don't work.
That's it.
You still have to pay your dues at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think, we have, sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to say, like Dave said, that there have been some grants available, and my husband, my other half, who I write with, actually runs this studio full time. And obviously we've not been able to have anybody in to the studio to record anything, so he's not had any jobs coming in. So he was able to get the self-employed income support scheme grant, whereby they evaluated the amount of money that you earned as a self-employed person, but you were only able to get it if you had at least 2 years worth of your yearly accounts filed, and you were only able to get it if you earned a certain amount, etc., etc., and you could only get 80% of that as well. So he had some money coming in, but not a lot, because it was just based on the average over the last few years, and he's only very recently started doing a lot better for himself, and so that wasn't really taken into consideration. So that so there was stuff, but it wasn't really thought through. There were so many barriers, and like Dave said, do you have a business premises that is separate to your home, was one of the things to get a lot of the bigger grants that you had to have, and we don't, because this studio is in our house. It's separate to our house, but it's part of our house, so we couldn't say that we have business premises. So actually what he was entitled to was not that different really, if you look at it from a day rate point of view, to universal credit, but he couldn't get universal credit because he was still self-employed and he wasn't going to be looking for a job. So yeah, it's been interesting.
I always say, and every time when I talk to people from over there, I always say we're so much the same. It's kind of through the last 2 centuries or whatever. We're really the same family, just different. But I can't believe the differences in this situation where we've fought together. I say we, our countries have fought together stuck together through wars and all kinds of, and you would think that something like this pandemic, I didn't realize, like I said, I go down Twitter and I see, where are we screaming at our president or screaming at, and we watch, you guys are watching us. But then I saw how much this Boris guy, right? And
that's why I've stopped watching you guys, because Trump's gone. The comedy value's disappeared. We've got it at home now.
Canceled the greatest show ever. But then we brought in Grandpa.
Now we have bloody Boris, and
Boris,
all the comedy's right at home.
But,
it's not funny though.
And I couldn't understand, and I'm thinking, I always take it for granted that we're pretty much on the same page, but we've got the reverse problem where this country now is paying people who really didn't want to work to begin with not to work.
Oh, we've still got plenty of those. Those, Mike. Don't worry about it.
But I mean, it's crazy over here and backwards to the situation you got where, like, it was tough as a self-employed person to prove your employment at first and get any kind of help. But people still are, and it's guaranteed through August 30th so far. It may be extended again to collecting an extra $300 a week to sit home and do nothing. That's the federal government.
Right, who's buying me a ticket?
I'm not kidding. And in the Democratic states so far still, the state also pays X amount normal state unemployment on top of it. Last month, this is the greatest. I love when they can't figure out what's going on. We don't understand why, with everything getting better, the unemployment rate actually went up. And businesses have such a glut. And I'm not kidding, this is true. There are businesses in New York City, if you walk around and you want a job, just say, I need a job. They will carry you in, like, the king or the queen or whatever, the pharaoh, into the restaurant and say, do you know how to cook? We'll pay you anything. Do you know how to anything? We'll pay you anything. They actually advertise, we'll pay you $60 an hour for 3 hours to come in and try the job.
Wow.
If you like it, it's
I'm
yours.
retraining as a chef. That sounds
I'm trying every job. I'm going to have a taster.
I knew I should have stopped off in New York on my way home from
you were
Oregon last
supposed
month.
to. You said you were coming to meet me, and you never showed up. And I didn't bother you because I don't know where
I tried, right?
In
So,
the
right, okay, so
but not kidding. The villages down there, like I said, I was telling Verity a few minutes ago, I was just down there a couple Saturday. It's crazy. But our government, in its opposite infinite wisdom, I don't know why nobody wants to work. Oh, wait, we do need another 1.5 trillion because we want to extend paying people to stay home. Are you fucking stupid? Or wait a minute, the economy grew 6.5% in February and March. It's amazing. No, it's not. You just handed the major corporations another $1.9 trillion for these dummies to go to Walmart and buy another PlayStation 5. Oh, the $588. That was the funniest thing. You think your country's stupid, right? Or I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase it. Our governments are idiots. All right, they are.
Yeah.
That Walmart had a heads up on this. Again, this is how how you say you think these major corporations that somehow always come out better on the other end. Okay, they had rows of $588 TVs the same week of the $600 stimulus check.
God.
They even left a little money for tax. It's just a joke. And you couldn't believe the lines of people in there spending that money. Oh, people got to pay rent. And they're buying TV.
Yeah.
But you don't have to pay rent. Still to this day in the state of New York, there's a moratorium on rent. You can't be evicted right now. I don't know if you guys heard of that.
Wow.
All the way back to last.
We had the same thing here.
You do.
You can't be evicted, but you have to keep paying as long as you possibly can. If you decide not COVID, whatever, I'm not paying until I'll go back to work, then the court case just rolls forward until they can catch up with you.
Yeah, but
but the whole process will still happen.
Right, because like I said to everybody, if you want to really make some money, if everything comes down to the September 1st, go get your license as a process server, because you're busy.
Yeah.
You know, the courts are going to be just 24 hours a
Yeah.
day.
They are.
Addictions in the services, but you know, again, similar situations. It's like maybe they were working together to see which crazy idea was going to work rather than just use common sense. But again, back to the regular person, and I started to look more across the board as, you know, it's not just music. Again, it's the arts in general. It's it's the mom and pop business in general.
Yeah.
Literally just didn't give a shit. And someday I hope maybe when all this clears, is anybody going to look back and say, you know, in history, what really happened? So far, no. That's the scary thing. I don't hear the people shouting.
It is, you're right, Mike, that is the scary thing. I've been amazed that there is, and maybe Kyle and Verity being a bit younger than me would have more of a handle on it, but our generation, certainly over here, the only people complaining are probably the sort of middle late aged, but we're too lazy still to go out on the streets. The kids just they'll go on the keyboards, they'll go on Twitter, they'll go on Instagram.
It's
whatever.
not that I'm too lazy. I'm just not fit enough to throw shit anymore.
Yeah, well, that's
I think
true.
I think the point is, you know, we are angry, but our hands are tied. Like, what more can we do? You know, the police brutality, although it's not as bad as over in the States, obviously there's still issues here. You know, the peaceful process that they tried to do when that girl got killed by the police officer in London, literally only months ago, the police wouldn't support there being a protest. Like, you know, there's literally, you know, if we don't want to get arrested and we don't want to get hurt or beat up by the police, there's not a lot we can do.
That's the point of a protest, though,
That's the
because
point.
back in the 60s, 70s, you wouldn't have cared about that because it was sheer weight of numbers. The police can't arrest all of you. I'm not suggesting we have general, you know, unrest on the streets and doing stupid things, but there is no protest. There isn't a concerted voice saying, hold on, this isn't fair, because it's happening so obviously in front of us that the government are just it's cronyism. They're just doing
whatever the hell they like.
And it's not even hidden. It's in plain sight. And yet none of us seem that bothered enough to do anything about it. That's what's happening with music and the arts generally. Sure, some of the politicians might like to go to the theatre or to a gig, but it's not where the money is. So that's why only the big events with the big sponsors, you know, they're being supported because that's where the money is. But the rest of us, frankly, if it doesn't happen again, it's no skin off their nose. They don't care. They're not bothered whether a small venue down the road closes or not, or whether you can go out and watch a live band with 30 other people. They're not bothered.
A lot of those small venues that have closed have somehow already got planning permission to be turned into student flats and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's where the money is. It suits them great if these venues go to the...
Here's something very similar again, where I say same but different, different but same. Where you're talking about that, turning that into some kind of living quarters over here in New York City. The big thing today was the homeless are being pushed back out of the hotels that they were using that were vacant. And now they want to take some of the 16,000 vacant apartments that were created over the last year. And they look at this as a good thing. And, you know, it hurts me to see anybody hurting, hungry, on the street. I go down there, it's normal. You don't even, notice it. Sometimes you can't help it. But what I will say is it's worse right now than it's ever been. And they're saying that they put a dent in it. I'm like, you're full of shit.
Mm. It's the theatre of politics at the moment. The identity politics in both of our countries has distracted everyone from the real balance of power and how unbalanced it is. We would rather fight with the person closer to us than the people who are shaking the jar. You know, the great analogy of red ants, black ants in a jar will start fighting if you shake the jar, when they need to really be fighting the person who's shaking the fucking thing. And that's our problem. We're too divided. There's too many lines drawn in the sand by too many sticks. So my generation are confused. I'm personally confused. I don't know who the hell to trust. So I don't trust any of them.
No.
You nailed it,
and
Kyle.
when it comes to voting, when we actually get a chance to make our voices heard with regards to a democratic process, you know, who do you vote for? Because they're all as bad as each other.
Yeah.
Well,
The only one that wasn't, they vilified in the press until everybody was terrified to do anything about it.
Exactly.
And for me, that's where the younger generation lost their spine. They didn't have the balls to vote for him, which they should have done. That's just my opinion.
I voted for Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, same.
Good man. All right, these two stand fast.
The only thing I do like about the government over there is it's fun to watch everybody yell at each other.
Oh my God, seriously.
We're supposed to be patterned after, you know, you're technically the mother country.
I mean, we haven't just got one buffoon. We've got like a whole party of like different levels of buffoon. And it's just an absolute clusterfuck.
Yeah, the levels of buffoonery are quite unique, aren't they?
And then it's like watching in the thick of it, isn't it? It's just like
Hitler's twin brother just sitting in the corner looking on, you know.
It's a circus.
Well, they're actually putting a dent in Netflix because the shows aren't twisted enough to be able to write these kinds of scripts. And if do you guys remember a few years ago, House of Cards on Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay. I love that show. Turns out he's
amazing.
He's a fucking piece of shit. But I say it like it is.
Yeah.
But what a shame. Great show. But that show, let's imagine that didn't get canceled after he did, was found out for the stupid shit that he's done. They went out to cancel it because there's no way you could make the that storyline worse than what was happening here, especially once we got into the COVID thing. Now, here's what drives me nuts about everybody. And I said this to a good friend of mine long before COVID, when we're just talking in general as friends. And I normally keep politics off Keep Rock Alive because I don't want to tarnish the music.
God, how long have we got?
But you know what? I look at it this way. Rock and roll fans come from every corner.
Yeah.
You know what? Rock and roll should be the one thing we can agree on. Let's keep the nonsense out of it.
Yep, 100%.
Obviously, I have opinions. You have opinions. We all have opinions. And I think like this group as adults and semi-mature and, depending on where you come from, we can have an argument. We can even have an elevated argument and still at the end say, you hungry? Let's go get something to eat. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, you see what happens. If you disagree with them, you're this, and this, and I hate you. You got family members unfriending each other on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's just a joke.
Yeah.
What everyone's become.
Yeah, but that's because so much of it is done remotely rather than face to face. We've particularly through.
I never do business through texts. I don't like doing business over the phone. I want to sit down because it cuts right through the bullshit.
Yeah,
you can't. There's no. You're not losing the context of the conversation through not having the facial. So whatever. You get the truth and that's it. It's done and you go on. But I said this to a buddy of mine. He kept saying to me, well, what's it gonna take for everybody to start getting back to the way we used to be? I said, we need a war. And when I meant the war, I said, we need like when's the last time like our country, the United States, actually did anything, got on the same page together? And I said 9/11, when we saw, our government stand on the steps of the Capitol and actually mean that for once, they even took that and somehow twisted that. So if there was ever a time, not just here, everywhere, where we were all literally under attack by something that we can't even see, you think we all would have gone on the same page? No, it's worse than it's ever been. The hatred and the stupid. I didn't realize until like the riots last year. I didn't know. I'm watching people starting to march through New York City and LA and even Texas. And I'm like, Texas? I can't believe this. That's how deep it was. And then it's happening over there with you guys. And I'm like, wow, how bad is this? But Kyle, you said it best. That's the guy shaking the jar. And, you know, I love analogies, and sometimes you got to explain to people, you know, like good comedian that had another good analogy. Like I look at our last election here as voting between the two bowls of shit, like like Lewis Black said, you know, because what have we come to that this is the best we can do?
Yes,
yeah. That is kind of nail on the head stuff, isn't it? It's like, these are the best people. Like, really?
What are the qualifications? What's the prerequisite? I mean,
Do you know, we were talking about this the other day at home. We were like, what qualifications do you need to be a politician? Literally none.
Nothing.
You don't even have to have any experience in home. Okay, we're going to make you health secretary, mate. It'll be fine. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never worked in health. I don't know, but what does the NHS mean? You know, like they don't have any experience, and we've got these people leading the country, making decisions on where this goes. It's bizarre.
PPE contracts going out to hotel rooms in China, for example. A registered business address was a temporary hotel room in China, and that's where a multi-million-pound PPE safety gear contract was sent out to.
Well, you bring up something very good. It happens over here every day, especially now they're trying to do a fourth stimulus, okay? Which I think is hilarious. You know, at this point, yes, just open up a mint or use one of the mints to just keep printing money. It has no value. Just send everybody $100 bills at this point, because there's no way this money ever gets paid back. You know, it's money that's just floating in air. They talk about Bitcoin. The dollar is the new Bitcoin. You know, talk about no value, please. Yeah. So all of a sudden, you see it happening. We call it the pork barrel grants over here. I call it greasing the wheel. Or greasing somebody. Like in New York, it used to be the little stories like unions. If you're a contractor working on a building, let's say on the 20th floor, all right, and you need to get your material upstairs. It doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But you better tip the freight elevator operator or you're never going to see your material. You got to grease him. Throw him 500, 1,000. And that's why everything costs so much in big contracts, especially. So the ultimate in that is the government over here. We got a congressman in wherever, blah, 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 blah. We need blah, 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 blah from him, usually votes. He needs money to do whatever and be able to spread money around to his people. So we're going to give them a $5 million grant. Well, you hear the silly news reports of the effects of the smell of pig shit in the environment. Literally, that's what they're talking about. Okay, pig feces and the smell, and and the government, and that's what a pork barrel grant is. And you know, it's just a joke. That's never going to stop. If anything, it's gotten to the point where now they wave it right in our face.
Yeah.
And there's not a damn thing we can do about it. Yeah. Look what they're doing over here. Now, this might be the only way to compare what's going on with you guys, that your government at least is right up front with screw you. We don't care. We think you're worth. And I said this to Kaz. I couldn't believe that they can actually say to their constituents, their citizens, forget about what you do for a living. What you are has no value. And we say so. And that's it. And the conversation's over. And
it's like the whole thing with the health secretary this week. He got caught out having an affair. The prime minister said, well, he's apologized, matter closed. Crack on.
Well, look at our governor over here in New York. Yeah.
All you need to know about what he thinks about you whenever he was doing what he was doing, when people couldn't go and attend the funerals of people that had died because of COVID. And they died because Dickhead had shut the country down early enough, or because he didn't lock down early enough, or he didn't stop flights coming in that he should have done, and any other multitude of things, because Hancock screwed up pretty much everything he ever touched in the health service. Right?
Yep.
130,000 people are dead.
Never touched.
Well, here's another way to look. I tried to look at it this way, and it happened over here, the same thing. Everybody pointing fingers. I started with, okay, if we all could actually set aside the people in general, the political differences, and we lost Verity. There she is. Turn your mic back on.
Yeah, you've muted yourself, V.
I think Matt Hancock's there.
My AirPods ran out of battery, so I've been trying to charge them and like.
But I thought in the first few months of this, after all the shock wore off of, oh my God, this is for real. Had everybody been able to put aside, and this is just in general, people, the nonsense with the politics and the finger pointing, I could understand. I said nobody was prepared for what happened, because you could never prepare for this. Like the stupid things like Cuomo over here saying the federal government should have had enough PPE issued to each state for a pandemic. Or there should be enough bed space for when we run into having so many 100,000 people that might be infected at once and need ICUs. So what do you tell? And I thought this might have been my greatest analogy ever. So basically build hospitals like fucking Starbucks. So they're on every corner. No, that's unrealistic. You got to prepare for the worst. Yes, but you can't build for the worst that you're going to have 500,000 empty hospital beds in each state. Just shut up. Stop blaming each other and stop doing whatever mistakes you made up to this point. Don't do it anymore. And let's start doing the right thing.
It's all just posturing and politics and crap, rather than just coming together, sorting it out and moving on and making everyone making it less of a deal. Like if you look at countries that have dealt well with it, what did they do? They came together, they sorted it out, they didn't blame people and got on with it. And that's what we should have done.
But
I think Joe Public needs to do the same, right? Joe Public needs to get their face out of their bloody device and actually come up and smell the coffee, have a look around and see what's actually going on.
I never thought I'd see the day as a New Yorker. Like even when I'm in the city and I'm like, I put on KRA, I'm looking to move there. I've got everything lined up. This is within the next few days to a few weeks that I'll actually be living there again.
Yeah.
I love the city just as what the city is. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what's going on in it, but I never thought I'd see the day where when you're on a subway and that, okay, maybe on the subway, there's nothing else to do, but no matter where you go, people are walking into telephone poles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not kidding. They're walking out in front of buses. You talk about, it's like watching, it literally under control. It's like you're watching some kind of
really concerning.
Yeah. 20s silent movie of, they're just marching in line and, the puppets are being controlled. But there's no thought for themselves anymore. Oh my God. Did you see what they said on Twitter today? Or did this?
It's a self-perpetuating process. It's divisive and anyway, you can always find someone who can agree with you, no matter how ridiculous and stupid and racist, sexist, whatever. There's always a group of people who will agree with you. So it's tribalism. It's ancient human behavior. But we lap it up because we have to live within boundaries. None of us would be able to live without boundaries. We need boundaries and values to judge ourselves against. Otherwise, we have no compass and we're chaos. All right. But the way that social media does is it shuts off the rest of the world. You're not getting a balanced view. You're getting this.
You get it based on the algorithms of what you're already looking at. So if you're already looking at racist and misogynistic things, and that's all that's going to be on there, and then suddenly you think that everyone else is like you, and so therefore you think it's okay, and
So that's why you get people justifying horrendous behavior like the actions of Derek Chauvin in the George Floyd case, because people see what they want to see, and they always will. So I agree with Dave. You have to lift your head up and actually go into the real world and speak to real people. Which this pandemic hasn't helped with at all.
No, it's not been easy.
that's what I miss about gigs and live music.
Yeah, same. I miss that so much.
I met more different people at a 30-40 crowd gig than I have over these last 2 years.
I was at a gig this weekend.
Wow!
In fact, yesterday I was at a gig in a field
Oh wait.
with about 80 other people, nice and
Lush.
small, no food. It was bring your own beer, bring your own food. I think it was 5 or 6 bands, and it was ace.
Oh man.
What that means is he had a Bluetooth sound bar, took some magic mushrooms, and a few teddies. Yeah.
And he was having a conversation with Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
It was just for starters, man. But what a superb day.
Yeah.
Just
I
a
have to
bunch
say
of people that
playing,
like bands and like watching, just love music, all getting together. People that haven't seen each other for, some of them I hadn't seen in nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, awesome.
Well, let's.
But it felt weird. It felt really weird and made you feel quite self-conscious, actually, because you're walking there, you see someone and you're like, oh, hey. And then you're like, shit, how much weight have I put on? You know, does my bum look big in this? Am I wearing my assless chaps this time or not? Right?
I hope you were wearing your arseless chaps.
No, I'm not allowed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh God, Jesus.
But here's the, there's like, the only way to address this now is, you know, where we were here, and then we were here. You got to just skip right to here. Where do we go from here? So let's say it this way. We over here right now are in a much better position than we were quickly 3 months ago. For whatever reasons, I know what they were, especially in this state. But it's happening, and it seems to be getting better, and we've set the precedent, I think, for like, if you guys open the doors tomorrow to 100% everything, I would bet you're going to be okay. I don't know where you are on the vaccinations.
Something like 80%, isn't it?
Yeah,
If I remember right,
ahead of us on vaccinations.
Well, we have been since day one.
Okay. So,
yeah.
But my point again is, I try to tell people, I don't care what your position is, that's your opinion. I know personally 12 people who died from COVID that would still be alive today had it not been COVID. So the whole conspiracy theory part of it, no.
Yeah.
It was
yeah,
real.
those guys are,
yeah,
they've got a screw loose, mate.
Yeah. I don't argue with them. Go ahead. Believe the earth is flat. We didn't land on the moon, and Santa Claus comes with the Easter Bunny.
Yeah, flat earthers, they have members all around the globe.
That is just the best.
Yeah.
I even said, and the other thing I said is, a lot of these interviews, there's been pandemics before, plagues, all of this. There will be again. Hopefully we learn from this. We're much better prepared than we were 100 years ago to deal with something like this.
Yeah.
Was it blown out of control? I look at it this way, like in New York, had we not cut it off, and I would tell people, you know, I'm not an alarmist or a fear monger or anything, but had we not shut down, how big would those numbers have been?
Yeah.
As big as they got. Nobody knows, but you know.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll just know better. But is there a better way to handle things like, you know, with what you guys are going through to this moment? You can't. In the world that we're living in, where everyone, I think it's just equality and inclusive and the inequalities like they yell over here that they're still talking about. You can't say that, okay, this group of people is more important than this group of people, and this group of people is more valuable than, you know, maybe in a moment of, let's say, the first 3 months, of course, keeping the pharmacies open, the food stores open, the gas stations open, that, you know, minimal you can survive is more important right now than live music. Yes, I understand that. Okay. A year later, plus, while, like you said, you got how many people in Wembley on one night, and then 80 people, you're not allowed to even have food. You got to bring your own on another night somewhere else in the city. Who the fuck is making up these rules?
Look, for Call of the Wild, right? We were probably going to be at about 1,000, maybe 1,200 people. Outdoors, the entire site is 284 acres, right? The area we're using isn't, but we're in one little corner of this 284 acre site, and we can spread out as far as we want for camping and all that kind of thing. We can open the arena out the space where we have the arena has a capacity for 12,000 people seated. Okay. We had to make our event all seated at tables. We needed 220 tables in the festival arena. Right? Call of the Wild is known for the atmosphere. It's family friendly, incredible bands, up and comers, established, come in from all over the world. This time it was an all British lineup because of COVID, but they were some of the best bands in the UK. Our lineup was superb. Raz did an incredible job with that, but we could have done everything that was asked of us. Everything. But you've got to draw the line whenever they're trying to make you responsible for people in their tents at night on the campsite and making sure that they stay in their groups. Right? How do you police that?
How do you do that? Yeah. How do you do that?
Right?
Just don't.
Table service to the bar, we could have, no problem. Right? Get the beers down. We weren't allowed to have draft beer. It had to be canned beer only. No problem. We can do that. Hand sanitization, lateral flow tests. We can do all that on site. The medical team was actually run by my brother. He owns his own fleet of ambulances. They're coming over from Belfast. He's been dealing with COVID since day one. Paramedics, all of them, right? So they can deal with that. The temperature checks, we could do all that. We could do everything. But they did not want us to do it. They made a point of making sure they knew they did not want us. We knew that they didn't want us to do it.
Did they give you any reason behind that, Dave?
No.
Now, my next question.
Is it because they didn't want you to do it because they didn't want the download pilot to fail and you were potentially...
because they didn't want to take any responsibility for an outbreak.
But there's already an outbreak.
If there had been or not. That's my personal opinion.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Next month, July 19th, when this 100% thing kicks in, does that mean lifting all restrictions?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Midnight, July 18th.
On July 18th at 23:59, you must abide by the rule of 6 indoors and the rule of 30 out. You must have table service at your bar. You must all this and wear masks and everything else. 1 minute past midnight, so 2 minutes later, don't have to do any of that. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore.
That's what makes no sense to me. That's why I'm asking. So technically, if your festival was on the 19th at 12:01, all this crazy police and I don't want to say crazy. Let's say
it's crazy, all right. Yeah. It's crazy.
But like you said. It's that joke, that meme. If you're on the toilet at 11:59 and you stay until 12:01, what do you call it? Same shit different day.
Yeah.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
But what changed? It's like when I said, Peter, I'm going to be 50 tomorrow. What's the fucking difference? You're 49 days, 50. Well, what changed at midnight? You're still an asshole. But you know what I mean? That's just, I don't understand the mindset of how you can go from one extreme to the other like that. What changed?
Yeah.
And you know what? There is no answer to these questions. Because if you sit there and you think, this is the way I'm able to somehow wrap my head around just about everything nowadays when you turn on. Like even today, I came in, I got in early, remember, because I forgot this was 3:00 today in my time. I got into the house, I ran around. I walked in at like 1:15 noon because I had to grab. I turned on the TV and The Price is Right was on, and I haven't watched The Price is Right in God knows how long. But they're still doing the social distancing thing. And I'm like, oh, enough. Drew Carey's still got like his beard's growing longer and longer. It's over. California's open. Stop. You're having concerts, but The Price is Right still doing. Just contestants only, and you got 85 cents on the wheel. Would you like this? They're standing 20 feet away from you. Shut up. Enough. Enough.
Yeah, you know,
It's
there's been a
so funny.
seismic shift whenever California drops it all, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, I spent quite a bit in time in San Diego at the start of this year. Sorry, not the start, like
Well, they went from
3 months back,
100% like
and yeah,
lockdown to all of a sudden there I see Carrie Stevens. You might see her on KRA a lot.
yeah,
She's really cool. We got chatting. We talked. We interviewed her once, and she was telling me how she goes, I can even walk my dog. That's how bad they were. They went from that to next thing. She's at out having dinner. I go, what happened? She goes, they just opened everything. We just it was like it just ended. I'm like, are you kidding me? All within 2 weeks.
Oh dear.
It just makes no sense.
yep.
Here, I could tell you exactly what happened. And you mentioned this about this other guy. He got busted on something. Our governor, now just maybe coincidence, maybe not. All of a sudden, a few months ago, and you don't hear about it anymore, he was being accused of doing some bad things. All right. He's an Italian from Queens. All right. I can speak for I know how he thinks. An Italian from Queens has got a big head already. All right. An Italian from Queens who's a lawyer has an even bigger head. That made it to governor, even bigger. His father was governor, Mario Cuomo, that he decided he's going to change the name of the bridges and everything to the family name. Okay, he's got a real esteem issue, and he thinks he's bigger and better than everybody. Yes, he started hitting on everyone in the office, okay? And I know how they do it, because you know what? I'm a guy. You know, I'm realistic, and I know exactly, he's single, and he's the guy, and I'm sure his mouth, no filter, and maybe probably did things worse, and he started getting busted. Now, after the 12th woman came out, who is still on not his employ, but in the same office, the governor's office, now, suddenly we went from, Dave, I'm not kidding you, when you drove around the highways, even upstate where I am now, where you went into the city, all the digital boards and stuff.
Yeah.
No matter where you went, you were reminded, keep a mask on, stay home, stay safe, all the shit. It never stopped. It was everywhere, nonstop. Suddenly, we're going to go to 30% next week. Oh, then you got the Mayor de Blasio in the city of New York. He's taking the opposite stance, going, it's disgusting what he's done, and he needs to step down. They were all trying to get him out of office. He said, screw you, 66% next week, and let them try to take me to court in due process. It was amazing how even the people who wanted him lynched suddenly forgot about what he was doing.
Forgot all about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. You can't even find it in the news. This so-called state investigation by the state AG.
Well, see, I'm kind of suspicious about this whole Matt Hancock thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the country's up in arms about all the bullshit that's gone on, the contracts that have been handed over to mates, millions upon millions that have disappeared.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the Sun gets video from inside Matt Hancock's office.
Yeah.
Who put the cameras in his office?
It was Cummins, wasn't it?
And
Gotta be
why?
Cummings.
Right?
Gotta be Cummings.
So you have the whole delay thing in June, right? So 21st of June is not going to happen. Whole country's going to be up in arms. You have to wonder what else was going on around that period of time.
Sacrificial lamb.
Right? Something was getting done, and it turned out it was like the whole G8 thing was right around then, right? Or G7, whatever. Mm-hmm. Now, all the footage has been leaked about Hancock, and Cummins is obviously diving in there to say what he's got to say. And we're coming back out of this apparently now on the 19th of July. So he's been made the scapegoat. This is what, look what we're doing for you. We're lifting it all up. Everybody forgets everything.
Oh,
because
let's go
all of a sudden,
yeah, they were great.
Joe Public's back out on the piss and going for a meal with their mates that they haven't seen for 2 years. Right? It all gets forgotten about.
I called it every time things started to come down on these guys. They either threw a bone or it's like the kid at the checkout. They keep screaming they want a candy bar, and then the parents are getting themselves into trouble and say, okay, here you go. You know, it just shuts us up. It's a truth.
We're so easy to manipulate. We've only got ourselves to blame, haven't we? You know,
Yes.
That's just the way it is. They're very skilled at it now, and they don't even need to be skilled. We're just easily led.
I think it's so easy to do now, though, just to completely divide an entire nation. You can split the entire planet in two by putting a single post up on social media.
Oh God! Well,
that's it.
Let's go back.
Job done.
Let's go back to rock and roll.
Yeah, I think we should really.
No, I'm going to say it's a perfect segue because, you know, again, talk about public eye, and it never.
Why does nobody see my band's posts?
Well, it's probably
right.
Yeah, this is the toughest time to be in music, because in the 60s and 70s, it was okay to express your opinions. And most of the time, you said it through your music, but that didn't mean you were in any immediate risk of, let's say, splitting your fan base. I'm a hypocrite because sometimes I always say the thing that's missing from rock and roll is its edge and its balls, I say it that way, to say what the band is thinking the moment they wrote the lyric. Don't change it. Don't fall into that category and looking around, you know. Don't worry about pissing somebody off. And then I stop and I'll actually, wait a minute, you can't. Because like you said, one tweet, one video that somebody took and heard you saying something at a club, you know, it'll ruin your career. Because it's very easy to earn that.
But I think on the flip side of that, Mike, it is important as an artist and as someone who's in the public eye to really stand up for what you believe in, and to give a voice to the things that you really believe in as well. So I think that although, yes, one bad word could like get you cancelled, I suppose, by these people, are they really people if they don't agree with your ethos and who you are as a person and what your brand is as a band? Are they people that you want as fans anyway?
No.
So you know, Black Lives Matter as an example, you know, I might put out a post about, oh, Black Lives Matter, and, you know, someone might not like that and they might unfollow my page or whatever. I wouldn't want someone that was a racist as one of my fans. And that, you know, that for me is, I'm comfortable with that.
But what I don't want people, where I say rock and roll, if there was ever a time where it should make a return, and it is, you can feel it. You can see it now. You see it on the charts. You've seen people.
Eurovision, man. You see it in Eurovision.
But this is the time to use, you know, that punk attitude I said 2 years ago is what needs to come back. And that it's kind of is in the music now of all rock and roll, rock, metal, you know, through the 1,000 different subgenres of it, which I just call it rock and metal. But if there was ever a time for it to make a splash, and you're starting to see it, that it's being felt that even other genres are starting to, you see Miley Cyrus, all of a sudden she wants to be rock and roll. I won't get into that. I have an opinion. Bullshit. But anyway.
Can't knock that voice though.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't knock the voice.
But I'm that kind of, like, I look at Verity and I talk, you guys are rock and roll. I can tell talking to you, listening to you, rock and roll. I can't say what it is, but I can tell you what it ain't. Miley,
I've got massive balls, Mike. I've got massive balls.
I don't need proof, so I don't want to see.
Mike, I'm curious because one of my favourite bands and Kyle's favourite bands at the moment is Bad Flower from the States, who are starting to, particularly if the second album is good, they're starting to make inroads in the UK. I don't know if they're big over in the States to any degree.
I met them, actually. I met them the first gig, and Dave will know who I'm talking about because he knows the band. He knows the reason that I started Keep Rock Alive, Mariah Formica, who's the lead singer of Plush, who you saw the news that I put out this morning. The first gig I ever saw went up to meet them and her family. Bad Flower, she was the band right before Bad Flower, and they had that one song back then in video. I love them. They're very different. They're kind of alternative, but they can also be really heavy. But I noticed what they did is they started to slide more toward the alternative, I guess. and they're gaining the notoriety.
I was just curious from what you were saying at the start of this, though, that they do very much express an opinion. I mean, they quite clearly were very anti-Trump.
Yeah.
They're very much into animal rights and veganism and so on. So clearly having an opinion is important, but certainly the anti-Trump thing must have split their fan base or potentially split their fan base.
But here's what I respect about that. There's two different ways that I see that. Like when someone said this happened last year with Tom Morello, they accused him of being political. No shit. Rage Against the Machine. Where the hell have you been, asshole?
Is it the dishwasher?
Yeah. But when a band is right up front with that, God bless them. And even if I disagree with them, I'll still be a fan. See, that's what's missing. You know, I hear guys, they say, how many people that I know were fans of Ted Nugent? They loved, Cat Scratch Fever, everything. And then he started to run his mouth. Oh, I'm never going to listen to him again. You know something? No, I may not want to. I'm not going to go spending $1,200 on tickets to see someone that I don't want to fund their lifestyle if they, let's say they got a dirtbag attitude. But I couldn't care less, if I like the music and it's not costing me anything, I'm not going to vilify someone. It's no different than I have cousins in the city who are very liberal Democrats, and I lean more toward I'm more of a conservative kind of mouth. Do I agree? Did I agree with Trump? No, you know what? And this is where I go back to, are you kidding me? I remember Donald Trump, when I used to go to Atlantic City, I used to go to the Trump Marina. That's how long ago this was. And then before that, it was the Trump Castle. And he'd fly in his helicopter with the long mohair coat and all that. And, all the crap that he did, he was he was that guy, real estate guy. Bankruptcies are a way to you take your loss, get out, re-roll your money into something else. Okay, that's just business. Yep. The idea that it turned into him running for president, to me, was we allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
Don't blame them. I blame the part. You're telling me that these are two parties, which is the whole idea between our system was two heads are better than one, and we had the same goal. Now it's two heads on two totally different sides of the fence. And it's either, you hate to use certain comparisons, black, white, apples, oranges. It's nothing in the middle. There is no common ground. That's where we live right now.
Yeah.
So I made this argument, and you were talking about, Bad Flower. They're right up front. I respect that 1,000% because I don't know if there's bands maybe, if that's what you're coming straight as, that's what you're willing to accept whatever repercussions, good, bad, and different there are on that. So, hey, if I like the song, I don't care that you won't eat a pork chop, or whatever.
I think you're better to stand for something than nothing at all.
Right. And that's rock and roll.
You can keep, who was it? I can't remember who said it, Reagan or somebody. You can please some of the people
some of the time,
all of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. Yeah, or whatever way that goes.
Yeah. I mean, you can, and again, like Kyle was saying, social media, and I won't use another analogy with that maybe I can, because now's the time. I said that once I reached a certain point with what I do, I support every band equally. I don't have to like the music. I don't have to like a few. I haven't, there's a line now where it's just distasteful or whatever you want to call it, but it doesn't mean just because they stand for the other something that I don't agree with doesn't mean they're wrong. I was raised a Catholic. All right. Now I'm 55 years old and I look at the church and I'm like, there's a couple of questions here. But same Kyle was saying before, social media, if you go digging, it won't take long. you're going to find someone or a group of people that agree with you. Whether that's right or wrong, there's people out there that are into things that are disgusting, okay? You can find that group if you decide you want to be part of that group. The Bible, same way. You can open, I'm a Catholic, and I say, yeah, all the answers to every question you ever had are in there, depending on how you interpret it. So it's the same idea. And it all comes down to the same thing, which man has been bullshitting man since the beginning of time.
Here, eat this apple. It's lovely.
Yeah. And she did it. And then the Pandora's box opened. And next thing you know, pop music was #1. And Miley Cyrus was making a Metallica cover tribute album.
And at the end of it all, God was an astronaut.
Right. and see, the hieroglyphics in the pyramids, that was a spaceship. And the 152 unexplained UFO encounters.
That's
wait a minute, the Earth is flat.
That news didn't even make the news, did it, this week, that UFOs are real and like nobody's in what in there? No.
I saw what they say, only one out of the 154 or 155 could be explained.
Yeah.
Now me again, why not? This universe is way too big. If this
Absolutely.
If we're all creation in general has to offer, it's
a pretty low bar, isn't it?
How fucked up is that?
It's a case of us having limitless arrogance and limited creativity and imagination. We're like, we're the best thing ever.
Yeah, see, I'm just sitting here thinking, if it's just us, what was the point of Hawkwind?
Right. Lemmy's,
You know what I mean?
Lemmy's wherever and nowhere laughing at us.
Yeah, man.
Told you. Drinking a scotch. But it makes you wonder, like, what is it then? What is it all for? Yeah. I'm not paying any more bills. Screw that cable bill.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I need it. Well, you got to have it because you got to have Wi-Fi. This is the stupid crap that we really think about. When you sit down at night and you go over the whole day of what we've all, let's say, set us off or pissed us off. The only thing that I enjoy is the music. The rest is always stress of you got this, the kids, the blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, that's it. If we all, if I drop tonight, that's it. You're done. Is there something? I don't know.
Yeah, for me, again, but just going back to the whole rock and roll and bands thing and whatever else. Yes, I enjoy the music, but I get more out of helping bands make a difference. I don't know if make a difference is actually the right phrase, but
giving them
helping to give them a platform where they could potentially make a difference to someone, right? So help them grow. Like, there's the whole alpha band management thing, and it's not a company. I've never been paid a red cent for anything that I've ever done with any band. I do it because I want to help certain bands, certain people. And when I find a band that, in my mind, has something that's worth trying to develop, then I'll do whatever I can to help them.
Well, that's how I
hit the nail on the head there, Dave, when you said helping bands reach people and make a difference, because isn't that what the creation of all art is about? Like, not just music, but theater and painting and poetry and prose and everything. As a person who is creating things, what you want to do is create something, and for that to attach and make someone have a reaction and make someone feel something, because actually that is the most powerful thing that you can do as someone who is creating music. As an example, if I write a song and then someone comes up to me at the end of a gig, and this genuinely happened, and said, that song stopped me killing myself, that is the power of art, and that's incredible.
I don't know if I should read it to you or not. I say everybody has, I call it, and I've done this a few times where I've reached out when I was building Keep Rock Alive. My goal was the girl that I found, that I never did anything like this until 5 years ago. I'm a rock fan. I played in bands, fucked around, but shit like that. I was trapped in the classics. nothing after punk or grunge. That guy. I heard this kid once. Something made me pursue meeting them because I saw they needed help. And they were long story short, they were doing it on their own, became personal friends with the family. Now they're like family to me. And today we got the news that her and her band are opening the second leg of the tour for Evanescence and Hailstorm.
Wow.
Her two biggest influences and idols, Amy Lee and Lizzie Hale. What are the fucking chances of that?
I mean, that's awesome.
But that aside, last year personally, and I don't go too deep into anything about me, but I don't mind either. I just don't use it as like a crutch or looking for attention, which is another thing I see on social media, which I don't agree with. There's venting, and then there's looking for pity parties. That's not me. But I've had some rough shit over the last few years, and I don't talk about it. But two things kept my mind clear at night when I was doing Keep Rock Alive: the music and this girl helping promote her. And today, like I was saying to Dave earlier, this is kind of like the cherry on the sundae with the sprinkles. I'm done. It's over. I like the pinnacle.
When's the gigs?
That's the story, the connection. And where a few minutes ago, when we were talking about the government over there saying, there's no importance in music. No, if there's ever been a more important time for music, it's been the last 18 months. The arts, all of that's kept a lot of people sane. Yeah. And like you said, in my story, not killing myself, but there's been some bad shit that like it got me through. I'm like, wow, now look, it just makes you feel good. And we say it all the time, like a song, some songs from the 70s, let's say, that when I hear them, I can literally smell where I was the first time I heard it.
There's a song for everything because it's just pure emotion. You feel angry, you put on some angry music. You feel sad, you put on some sad music. You want to feel happy, you put on some bouncy music. It's and like you said, it's music and the arts have been such a crutch for people over these last 18 months. And this is how the government repays us.
That's why the small venues shutting is such a kick in the balls and kick in the teeth, is because the feeling you get, the smells, the memories, everything, it's tactile, it's real. And as good as a release is online, as an amazing as a feeling it is for someone to comment and like and share, and whoa, I've had 100 views today. Doesn't matter compared to that one person who says that lyric meant this to me, or you watch them and they're smiling, whatever. That's irreplaceable.
See, now that's what happened, similar to Dave. What happened to me was I suddenly found myself on a mission, hell-bent on, I don't want to say saving rock and roll. It was never going to die or go away, but it was hurting. And now it's starting to come out on the other end. And I truly love the music. And I would look at some of what I call the garbage out there, but it's, everything, nothing lasts forever, and you can't stay on top forever. And they've tried all this other stuff, and you're starting to see it's the table's starting to tilt again.
Yeah, so it is.
The timing is perfect. I know this is the worst time ever. But what's coming out stronger on the other end is what I say, the table is set for you guys. Whatever it is that you guys write or whatever you do, when this finally gets back to whatever the new, I don't want to say normal, whatever normal comes out, this is going to be the best opportunity ever for rock and roll to take its place at the throne, is what I keep saying. Because the garbage music, these kids nowadays, a few guys I talk to say, there's no physical connection to the music. Like Dave and Keith will understand. Maybe you guys, depends on if you're into it. We grew up with vinyl, even 8-track, whatever, and we could sit there and read. When you bought an album, you listened to the whole album, you put it on the platter. There was that connection to it. And I said, well, the argument to that is, these kids now have an iPhone in their hands at 2 years old, and they're already flipping. That's their physical connection. Same way, my parents had 45s. my grandparents had the old wooden radio, listening to radio shows like the Shadow and stuff like that. That's their connection to what they. So each generation has something different. But this generation, one thing we've been missing is the bands that speak for them. There's been good bands, but we haven't had that big splash band like a Nirvana, even though I wasn't into that.
Yeah.
It was the perfect response to the 80s and everything over the top till we went back to the dark, kind of dark. Here's what I'm wearing, screw you, life sucks, and this is the music. But it worked.
Yep.
All right. And that was the kids of the 90s. That's what they relate to. We need, like the songs and the bands that I had in the 70s that I heard the lyrics and went, that's us. That's me. I went through that, whatever, connected.
Yeah.
The thing that's missing.
Yeah.
I try to do it and I say this
the massive problem with finding that band now is that you have an average of 1.5 seconds of somebody flicking the screen on their phone to make that initial impression.
Yep.
And if you don't, that person's pretty much gone for good.
I know, I get it.
Right.
We used to have, and again, that's where back then you had 5, 6, 7 channels of television and your 3 go-to radio stations that you listen to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this now, and you make a very good point. When I get music sent to me and I'm going through my emails, and then sometimes if there's so many, I'm pretty good at this now, where under 10 seconds, I know if it meets the format or not. And there's been a couple that slipped through over time that I heard a second time and go, whoa, I didn't get to. That's why I tell bands, who was I talking to? We're talking about long intros back in the day that, a 7-minute song was, an epic journey, and the 30-second, 1-minute intro. You could never get away with that now. You got to skip to the verse or at least to the chorus or something. And I do that a lot with the music I put on KRA when I do the snippets. Like if there's a long intro, even if it's awesome, I don't dare do it because you're never going to get people to listen long enough to say, wow, I like it, and then click the YouTube link or go to the band's account. That's what I try to do. I'm like the guy, the barker at the carnival going, come on in, see the bearded, whatever, or get him in and then win him over on the inside.
Yeah.
That's the way I've tried to, let's say, market the music. Because like you said, Dave, 1.5 seconds, 20 seconds if you're lucky. Even on TikTok, that's the new tag, 20 seconds. And most people make their decision whether they're going to write it out or they're just going to skip along at 20 seconds. But and the music usually times out and is forgotten about in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I just need to check actually, because I put a little video up on the Tomorrow's Lost TikTok that Keith made, taking the piss out of me. There's a photograph of myself and Ryan at download, and he's put this thing on there, and it's actually well on the way to being the most popular video on the Tomorrow's Lost TikTok.
Now wait a minute, is this a little goofy kind of thing?
Yeah.
Well, that's the trick. That's the trick.
Exactly.
I always say it like this. I used to put up. It's like when I was doing the classic rock polls and stupid shit that I wanted no part of. But I'm bored to tears. It's all been done. It's kind of like podcasts. There's so many podcasts out there, all doing the same thing, all saying that they've come up with it first. No, none of you have reinvented the wheel. All right. It is what it is. And that's fine. But, even my heroes, like even when I get to talk to them now, I'm not blown away or I'm not starstruck.
There's no mystery behind them anymore. There's no edge, all that crap,
And it's cool, hanging out or talking with them. But I mean, I'm not, me, let's say having this conversation that we're having, I'm getting more out of this and explaining to people, what does the future of rock and roll need? And I used to fight with people. Oh, well, Toto's going back on the road again. And Jesus Christ, the Rolling Stones, they're in their fucking 70s. They're going to die one day. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah. fact that they're still alive is actually quite impressive.
Yeah, and that they're still out there. And then even sometimes they'll go out there and you get some of these older bands like they were knocking the Who. Oh, Roger sounds like shit. It's not 1968 anymore. Where have you guys been? How could you even judge them?
You're saying that on one hand, and they're buying the tickets on the other, and it keeps the cycle going.
Oh, look,
I'll have it both ways.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you know what? Instead of buying a ticket to see Roger, whose voice is shit, apparently, why don't you go and see 10 gigs of up and coming bands that you haven't heard?
well, that's my argument. And you know something, I've already paid my dues. I'm never going to pay another cent other than sometimes I'll buy a vinyl at a yard sale or something just because it's cool and I had it as a kid and I don't have it anymore. But what I try to explain to people is no entity, no anything survives solely on its past. And why do we keep, like 2 years ago, when Sgt. Pepper's 50th anniversary hit #1, of course it did. It's the Beatles. You know, even a kid on, you know, there's people that haven't seen another human being in 20 years know what that is, or never saw a human being. They run around wearing Yankee caps and listen to the Beatles. They don't speak, you know what I mean? It's just, that's ingrained into culture. But was there any lasting? No. When Tool came out, Slipknot, they were #1. And then the next week, Taylor Swift came out and had 7 times the amount of albums sold in 1 week. No, you got to sustain. So my argument has been the future of rock and roll is in the hands of the youth, meaning the youth, you guys. Okay. And every era of music, all the way back to the 50s, when kids could afford a 45, and that's why rock and roll took off in the 50s, was the 45 RPM record. They were able to take it home. It was cheap. The bands couldn't record an album. It was too expensive, so they recorded 45s. The kids couldn't afford an album, so they bought 45s. There was the first recipe for the success of rock and roll. Bill Haley, Buddy Holly, all of that. Elvis, that's how it started. You go into the 60s. We saw what happened. The early 60s, Motown even got involved in the late 60s. Politics, culture got involved. Woodstock, fast forward, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, all those bands that we all know. Then Tony Iommi cuts off his fingertips. Everything changes. Because if you talk about, I say thank Tony's mother for sending him back to work that day. If he didn't go back and chop off his fingertips, we'd never have those riffs. And it's scary to think how, you know, how that, and that's the truth. But no matter what it's been, what carries music that's popular? And that's what pop came from. Teenagers and 20s. To this day, what are these stupid award shows that we've been watching the last 2-3 years now that just have this stupid crap? The Super Bowl over here, there's no more rock and roll. They're all out there catering to the teenagers and I say the kids in their 20s, early 20s. That's where the money is. The people that are going to go, because there's no money in the music anymore, at 0.000 whatever per stream or whatever. You know, the big labels make their money on the big tours, the mega tours. But what happened in the last year was the playing field's been leveled, and that's how rock and roll was able to catch up in 2 ways. Big music took a huge hit in the billions of dollars, and now you guys have all caught up technologically that you're not changing the music, but now we're using the tools, social media, Pro Tools, being able to, you've discovered that you guys probably all did it, that you were able to record music and not see your bandmates for over a year and still put out music, send in the files and mix in remotely.
Yeah, I find that to be a bit of an issue as well, though, because when you look at a band, and with Keith and I from a label perspective, right? One of the big decisions comes down to that first thing that you hear, okay? And let's be fair, if it sounds like a bootleg from a Metallica concert at the Ulster Hall in 1988, you're not going to give it a second thought.
No.
It could be amazing, right? But you're not going to spend the time listening to it. So you listen to it, and it has to be this perfectly produced, well mastered, awesome piece of work, right? From a professionally polished and fully up to speed with good social media, good this, good that, good everything band. So what you're expecting, even as a label where we are, is a fully professional band that have developed to a point where they're worth bringing onto a label. A band is not allowed to just be a band anymore. They're not allowed to go out and get shit-faced and trash the place and screw up a gig or fall and whatever. The things that formed all those bands way back, Guns N' Roses, Van Halen. Van Halen almost didn't get signed because David Lee Roth couldn't sing even then. Right? And that's the truth. Warner Brothers pumped $1.5 million into them when they couldn't sell out like, what, 20, 30 people in a room? And they pumped $1.5 million into them to put them on tour with the Scorpions and send them around the world. Okay? That doesn't happen anymore. And there's any number of bands that are around right now that you could argue are better positioned than some of those guys were back then. To be able to go and do that, to have the capability and the friggin' talent to go and do it. But nobody will put the money into it to get them to that level anymore. You've got to fund it yourself. But if a band asks you for more than 50 quid to play a gig, oh, who the hell do you think you are? Right? Yeah. Sorry, Keith, I went over the top of you a little bit there.
No, perfectly valid point. No, that's the thing, but it is, unfortunately, it always comes back to money, doesn't it? The people with money are not going to do it out of the goodness of their heart. They want a return on their money. We do it because we're passionate, because we love it, because we've both got kids involved in it and so on. But we haven't got the money. But the ones with the purse strings and the contacts, they're businessmen. That's what drives them, and that's fair enough. That we've no right to change them. But they control so many of the entry points to the industry that it is very difficult. I was interested in what was saying about the instant hook of music, and Kyle perhaps come in on this, but I know very much Kyle and Thea, that is more so than ever with the current music he's just written and recorded, been conscious that those first, maybe not a second and a half, but those first 10 or 15 seconds are absolutely crucial. Writing very much.
Yeah, that second and a half sort of refers to the flicking through on your phone. On social media, right? It's not the first thing you hear. We've probably got 25 or 30 seconds.
It is 30 seconds, yeah. And it's something like 90% of number ones out of 100 from the last year all had lyrics within the first 10 seconds, regardless. And 60% of that or something were started with the word you, which is just a weird pattern to notice, but it is instant gratification that it's easy for people to digest and process, and that's a good thing as well as a bad thing. It's really difficult from my perspective as a creative person, because I now have to be a creative person who can make a video, shoot a good photo, manage a social media account, market myself, promote myself as well, even with a network as great as WDFD. So your energy is split across a million.
And then because it's
platforms.
compare something, we all have to have full-time jobs too.
Yeah, a full-time job and a partner and a dog and a cat and a mortgage and
I have a daughter as well. Yeah,
and a daughter. Yeah.
So I mean, I've lost my train of thought again, as I often do, but the talent isn't just about your musical talent anymore.
No, it's not anymore.
No.
Which I say is good. It's because the listeners have been subjected to, it's the wrong word, but they're listening to stuff in the charts and music on the music channels and videos and everything, and the quality is amazing, consistently incredible. Listeners' ears know what sounds good now, and they've had a taste of that amazing thing, and that's what they want. That's what they constantly want. So we have to push for that, which is fun and exciting, but it's expensive. So boo.
One thing I always think back on is MTV, when it used to actually be about music, right? Which it isn't anymore. It's all about teenage girls running around doing whatever. And it used to, it was, but it was always rock videos, okay? Def Leppard, Dire Straits, all the bands of that time. I can remember coming out of college and going for a pint at lunchtime in the Railway Bar in Antrim. And the first thing that happened when we walked in the bar was the guy behind the bar would put MTV on for us. So you'd have your pint or two, or maybe not go back to college, and just sat watching rock videos all day. When those bands all kind of, I don't want to say faded away, because they didn't really. They moved further back in what Joe Public would see, okay? MTV died a death, and it had nothing else to do but put My Sweet 16 on, or whatever. Other Cribs, right. So when that changes, and I hope it does, it's going to be because of bands that are like you guys coming back through and forcing that change. You know, there's really only one rock channel on now, and that's Kerrang, and it's not exactly rock and roll.
Kerrang is still looping music from the noughties, and you pop punk. Yeah, the anthems, and it's like, that stuff was when I was first getting into music, and it's already old hat.
It's like, give the new bands a chance, guys. Like,
yeah.
Well, here's the way I explain it to people: the consumption of music. It's let's imagine it's summertime 1978, and I can tell you exactly where I was and how we existed. We were always outside. We'd probably be outside right now doing something, waiting for the ice cream. I don't know, whatever. There was always a radio. No matter what we were doing, someone always had a radio.
Back in 5, guys. I just got to go quickly sort something. Back in a minute. You carry on.
We're going to stand up and wait for you to leave. I'm a gentleman. Get out. But I mean, I look back fondly on how I developed my love for the music and how we discovered music. We couldn't look for it because, obviously, of the technology. It was pre-MTV. In New York City, I was a rock guy, so we had WPLJ, WNEW, I think WPIX at that time. Let's just say there were 3 major rock channels. And they played rock, new rock. And when it's so funny to look back now, because there's a guy that's still on Q104.3 in New York City right now. He's a DJ. His name is Jim Kerr. He's playing the music right now on a classic rock station that I listened to him in 1978 on WPLJ when he played it and broke the music. And it's funny to hear that it's the same guy.
Playlist is still exactly the same. He's like, okay, we're going to do April the 1st now. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and he was there. I was a kid in junior high school, and he's still doing the same thing. And from back in 1978, and I can still hear him on the way to school saying, "We got the brand new from Aerosmith." When these bands weren't, what they are now, legendary. But we only had this choice of 3 stations, and I remember back then I was listening to PLJ mostly. And what happened was, song would come on, you had to listen to it. And that was it.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to go change, and nobody was going to go changing stations. We listened and we heard the whole song every time. And then the commercials. And that's why, like Dave was just saying, it's hard for people to imagine now and envision today of how it really was then. When we were home at night, we played, when we turned on the television, I can tell you, we had channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13 was PBS, which is where Sesame Street was on. Okay. And that's all we had. And the funny thing is there was always something on. And we always say it was so good because it had to be good.
Yeah.
You know, they were battling for a few small spots to keep you listening. Whereas now, I mean, if you have cable or Roku, whatever, thousands and thousands of different types of streaming or whatever. So I said music right now is a victim of its own success. That now it's so easily available and there's just so much. And like, Kyle, you're right. If you don't grab them, like if you release Stairway to Heaven today, it wouldn't be a hit.
No.
You wouldn't get a notice. Just go. You're gone. Nobody's gonna listen to that intro. None of this.
No.
Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
None of them. Even some of the straight up rock and roll probably wouldn't make it.
No.
So you got a better chance at now, how could I say it? Redeveloping that connection to the fans. Because like I say all the time, they go, oh, it'll never be the way it used to be. Well, why not? Oh, well, why not? The same way you fall out of favor and the other genre, what was it that connected to these kids nowadays? Well, they're able to create music just as easily as these bands, or I shouldn't say, I don't even know what you want to call them, artists that are on the top 40 pop charts or just the top 40 chart in general, Billboard here. What do they call it in the UK? I always forget.
Top 40.
It's just top 40. Okay. Here we have Billboard. But
Shite.
Yeah, shite.
well, that's where I was going. You know, any kid now can go on, create a song by doing boop, 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 whatever, uploading it to YouTube. You got kids with millions and millions and millions of followers and views of doing these silly videos, whether it's gaming or fingernails, hair, I don't know. You name it, they do it. And that's why, Verity, I was saying TikTok, and we'll go into this, I'll tell you what I really think of TikTok, is starting to transition. That's how it started. And now it's becoming very, it's got a professional side, meaning artists, kids, there are so many kids out there right now learning to play guitar or know how to play guitar that it started to feel like, again, back in the day, they found a spot to put their videos. YouTube wasn't the answer.
No.
TikTok is. And once you get, you see these kids that are learning, are starting bands, it's the new place to go. I swear by it. You see me, if you watch, I post them all the time. I call it, Youth of
I
Rock,
think that's
whatever.
where I came across that. I can't remember his name now. It's a 6-year-old kid. And you'll know who Avery Mollick is, right? No?
No.
Jesus Christ. You guys need to spend, you guys need to spend more time on YouTube.
Yeah, he's been around forever. Well,
Yeah,
that's
right.
Forever,
So,
for years.
Avery was the first one
Right.
I saw on YouTube, probably back when he was like 4 or 5 years ago. When he was 4 or 5 years old. So that's got to be nearly 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
But this kid that I saw him for the first time like 2 weeks ago. And there was one that was posted up. I'm pretty sure the first one I saw was TikTok, and I looked for him on YouTube and whatever. Oh, mate, he played Rush's Tom Sawyer. And it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was
you know what?
Unbelievable.
Because there's two sides to this coin. With all the information that's out there that, fight that's against us, let's say, that's our competition, let's say, there's also information like, and I do this now in my 50s, like songs that I always wanted to learn that I might have been playing in my mind, right? And then I go, you're not even friggin' close. But these tutorials, back when we bought tabs, the books of, the tabs for guitar, you don't need that anymore. Just go on YouTube. If you got to fix your car, the brakes on your car, transmission, you can rebuild your whole fucking car. Just go on YouTube. Good. The positive side is the information. So these kids are now not only absorbing the information, learning, and that's who it was. Nikki Stringfield, guitarist for the Iron Maidens. A couple of weeks ago, we interviewed her, And she said it. I said Fender at first, and she goes, "No, Mike, it's across the board. Every major guitar manufacturer in the world yesterday." She's a Schecter endorsed guitarist, and she works for Schecter also. She has a great story, worked for it, but they can't keep guitars. There's no guitars in the warehouses where they used to have them in inventory. They can't build them fast enough.
Yeah.
I was at a piano showroom, long story, last week, and I was talking to the guy there, and he said they have never sold so many pianos in the UK as they have over lockdown, because everybody who's been putting off learning piano or guitar or whatever, it's sort of like, well, I've got time now, so I might as well just pick it up and do it. The musical instruments have been flying off the shelves, which is actually really encouraging and exciting.
Yeah.
If you're given the time, as we all were, to me, the first lockdown was a gift. What do humans do naturally? We sing, we dance, we get pissed, but we celebrate. That is the first thing we want to do. Everyone wants to sing, whether you're good or not. Everyone enjoys it, and it releases the dopamine. And that, at the end of the day, is what music will always be about, regardless of where we hear it, how we view it, how we consume it. Yeah. It's a feeling. So that's something that will thankfully never change.
No, that's part of it. Again, that's DNA.
Yeah.
That's our instinct. That's our DNA. I also use the other thing, rock and roll DNA, which let's again talk about the music, because there's so many distractions that we've had, because so many things have gone wrong in the last year, but it also exposed a lot of things that maybe I say nothing good came out of this disaster, people dying, all this kind. Hopefully the good things, like we just said, there are kids out there now playing guitar that have so much at their fingertips. Those same kids that may have ended up with an iPad now are saying they want a PRS.
But because if they've got an iPad, they can download GarageBand and they can compose and they can write with their PRS to then make something even bigger than I've never imagined. Instead
of it being Guitar Hero, now it's actually, I want this guitar, I want these pedals, I want this amp, I want a GarageBand. Or Mom, I want to lease Pro Tools or whatever. Now it's starting to tip the other direction. And if you really go spend the time, and I'll say this, I swear by TikTok. It sounded crazy. Over a year ago, I said this. I told people start going there because I was poking my nose, and you could see it happening. I went from yelling at my daughter that Christmas right before COVID, because they were on TikTok on the train. I took them to see the tree in Rockefeller Center, right? Get off there. You don't know who you're talking about. People, perverts, all this, right? She's only 14 at the time.
And now you're one of the perverts. No.
No, I look. And she actually says, "Dad, you're embarrassing me." I said, "Nobody knows you're my daughter. Don't do that." When I did the one video with Adam and the Metal Hawks with a towel on my head, crazy train. Hey, I got 600 likes. I said to her, "What are you, jealous?" But I went from telling her to stay off TikTok to how do you find followers? And she's telling me about the hashtags. And that's the key. But I ended up in just 2.5 months, Keep Rock Alive, and I had just started putting some kind of content, 300,000 views of the videos. It crushed what I do on Twitter. But I noticed genuine interaction, genuine comments, genuine likes, people telling me, "Oh my God, who are these people? Where do you buy them?" That is what really sold me. Twitter does okay, but I don't know what the difference is. People seem to be more engaged on TikTok. And then I started adding in the stupid shit just to keep it moving, and it started to work. I'm not good enough for any of that, though.
I'm so delighted you're saying this, Mike, because I've had the same feeling about TikTok for a while, and I think Kyle's looked at me as if I've gone mad, and certainly when I've mentioned it to the bands on the label, with the exception of Verity, who's renowned for her intelligence and foresight.
I swear to God, one of the first names I thought of when I thought about TikTok was you. Verity. I said, Sheila will eat this up. I can just, her personality and her, I said, I can just see it. I don't want to say it. She's all crazy. Perfect. in a good
But
way.
yeah, most of the bands just couldn't get it at all, just and still are not getting it, not understanding it, and it baffles me because they're all younger than me. I should be the one not getting it, and they're not getting it, and it just amazes me because it is. I think it is the most powerful tool we've got at our disposal at the moment.
You got and there's a good problem there, because a genuine rock and roll band, no matter how old they are, the initial response will be to scoff at that, because we have that rock and roll purist thing.
Yep.
Like, we're not going to sell out to gimmicks. We're not going to do goofy shit. We're not going to sell ourselves. But as you get older, age and maturity are two different things. Now, Keith, you may not, let's say, be into it, Keith, or me either, but we see the potential of it. And you say, listen, and now the perfect example is this band, Adam and the Metalhawks. I found them 2 years ago, posted that really good band from Long Island, young kids. Adam was on American Idol. He did really well. But, rock and rolling is only going to go so far on these shows, right? And he's kind of a Jack Black kind of guy. And that's his idol. So I posted their music, and they had, a few thousand followers, get a few hundred looks and likes. They did an album, really good album, and it did okay, and it was falling through the cracks. And then they went at just about the same time last year that I said it. And I lost track of them. They just disappeared. I didn't know they'd gone to TikTok and Instagram. Right now, they have their one video where Jack Black finally noticed them and duetted it, has 60 million views. The one video. And they're just off the charts. Now, and then what happened was, that's what jolted Keep Rock alive on TikTok, was nobody else had their music. People started seeing them doing these goofy videos, which was really good covers of classic songs. And all it was is the four of them, and this is during lockdown, two of them sitting playing guitar with salad bowls on their heads. The drummer standing behind them, and Adam standing behind them, beating the salad balls as drums while Adam sang. That's the whole gig. It exploded. All of a sudden, I start getting blown up because people started searching Adam and the Metalhawks, and I was the only one posting their actual music. So it gave me a boost. But that's, again, what I try to tell people, the snowball effect. And everybody feeds off each other. And
that's what WDFD is all about as well. Like, the whole point of us all working together on this, table, is that it's kind of like the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all. We all want to help each other. We're all genuinely passionate people who are, if one of us has success, we all celebrate that. And that's an amazing thing to be a part of.
Well, I try to explain to bands also this thing. It's not a competition. Let's say you got 3 bands and each band's got 1,000 fans, all right? And none of them overlap. If you all play the same gig, you got a chance of everybody walking out of there with 3,000 fans.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it. And that's what rock and roll has always been.
To me, this goes back to the same sort of analogy you're using there. And then the whole TikTok thing where, it's not rock and roll. And people say the same thing about Spotify, right? Spotify is one of the best tools that a band has in their arsenal. But you've got these, I'm not using it. They don't pay us. They don't pay enough. They pay something. Are you well enough off as a band to turn down anything that's coming in? But you're missing the entire point of what Spotify is, right? It's a tool for you to be able to market your music.
Exactly.
That's it. That's how you should be viewing it as, not what it's bringing in. When you get to a high enough level to worry about what's coming in and your deals with labels and whatever else, that's down to you. But don't just ignore it because you don't think they pay you enough. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's reaching people that you would never have reached without it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Without being a complete down, like a contrasting thing, like Keith mentioned earlier, Dad mentioned earlier, that I roll my eyes on whatever it. And I feel a bit disingenuous with the new trend of TikTok and things, is because it does feel forced in certain cases. It's like, bloody hell, I've just got my head around Facebook and now there's something new And there's not just something new, there's 3 other new things that I've got to figure out. And that's why this collective is more valuable than my personal knowledge. And Keep Rock Alive and having a network is, again, it's all about the human connection, the tactile, emotional bridges. We need help.
100%.
And
Kyle,
so
let me say it like this, and something I've been saying when people blame, I'll make this real quick. We can't find the new music. Radio stations don't play it anymore. Big music has destroyed rock and roll. No, no, and no. Times have changed. They're running a business. They're going to go where the money is. Radio stations are run on advertising. They're going to go with whatever they have to play that will guarantee the most advertisers for people to spend money on advertising on their radio station. That's how it works. I had a guy say to me once, well, why don't you just start a rock and roll station? Why don't I just open a fucking a store that sells 8-track tapes? It's the same thing. Nobody's going to listen yet. So, okay, what do we got to do? We have to work together.
Yep.
You said it.
Yeah.
And that's it. No one's going to do it for us. No one's going to feel sorry for us. Dee Snider, I love him to death. We disagree on politics, but he helps us. You may have seen it a lot. He retweets a lot of the music.
Yeah.
Keep rock alive. He's genuine. He fights for rock and roll. But he keeps saying AC/DC should be playing the Super Bowl halftime. No! Kids don't give a shit about AC/DC. There's 150 million people out there that they're trying to get to watch the football game that doesn't watch football. The money is made by Pepsi with the non-football fan who watches the game to watch the fucking commercials and the halftime show. All right? So they're going to get whoever this clown was, the weekend was this last year, with people wearing fucking jock straps on their head. No matter what we think, as embarrassing as it was to us as rock fans to watch, it worked. People watched. That's all about money. So I've been saying now for the last 2 years, and finally it's starting to happen. No one's going to help us. We have to do it ourselves. We have to work together. And that's it. It can't be about, like I say, Keep Rock Alive is not me. It's not me. It's us, and it's for the band.
Yeah.
It's why it's for you guys, and you know, it's just pure enjoyment to see, like you were saying earlier, Kyle, about getting maybe 100 likes. A band just makes you feel good. Okay, yes, that's great. Now you got to build off that, and eventually, if I was like advising a band, I would say to them, absolutely. Oh, this is where I was going with this. Sorry. You may have noticed over the last few weeks, 12 Years Today. Anybody know the name of this band?
Yeah.
The Spotify thing where Spotify and CD Baby took their music down from a false copyright claim.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you. Shit like this happens. This is what happens. People weaponize certain things. There are people out there right now that you are all dealing with that can't stand you. And that's what I told her.
I'm sorry, Keith.
And she told me to say, I didn't use her name, but she told her. But my point is, you got to understand, on social media, you don't know who's on the other side of the screen. I had it happen to me where there's some of the guys people that I helped at the beginning, whatever, goes bad. My goal is simple. Try to create a platform where people just more new music and more ears. That's it. I'm not out here to build a brand or be whatever, the next Eddie Trump. No, just about the music. But people who have a grudge, and I watched it happen, I know who did it. I didn't realize this because you got to think on a really fucking evil level.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can, if you know what to do or how to do it. Let's say I wanted to destroy Verity. For whatever reason, I knew I'd get a face out of that. But I wanted to have, they found a way by whether it's, who knows? I don't know how to think that way, but they made fake accounts or whatever, and they put in a copyright claim on the music, and somehow, and I call it no due diligence because it should not happen. There should at least be some sort of a judgment that, your music was found to not actually be yours, okay?
Yeah.
But they skipped right to the end. CD Baby and Spotify took 12 Years Today's music down. Now, I know this band very well. It's their music. They're like nobody. Whoever did it, someone's got a grudge. But the knee-jerk response by some of the people who were helping them, and a lot of bands around them said, oh, we're just going to screw this. We're going to pull our music from CD Baby and DistroKid and Spotify and Amazon. And I stepped in and said, whoa, 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 slow down. I understand you're angry, but guess what? You need them. And you're going to always need them, especially when you start gigging again and you go in there and the booking agent says, okay, how many followers you got here? How many streams you got on Spotify? Oh, we don't use Spotify. Oh, well, too bad. You're not playing our club.
Yeah.
You got to have them.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. Yeah. It's just the way it is today. Forget about the old book. The old, you're not going to bring a tape in and get a demo. You're not going to go banging on the window at a radio station and say, come on, play my 45. This is the new day. They may not be financially, immediate, but again, it's one of those tools like TikTok, like social media, Spotify, even if it pays whatever it is, 0.0083 cents per stream. It's one of the first things anyone is going to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're building. And, you want to be able to say, yeah, I got 500,000 streams last month on Spotify. That's the actual value of Spotify. You want to make money? Have your merch ready. If you can, have an online store, sell physical copies, whether it's CDs. You're not going to do, when you reach a certain point and you get enough people asking, maybe sometimes 100 copies of, if you've got an album or an EP, you have them pressed and sell them for $20. T-shirts, that's where you're going to make your money. You're going to make your money at the gigs. And that's why it hurt so bad again this last year. And still,
I mean, think about it. You play a festival, you're in front of potentially thousands of people that have never heard of you before.
Mhm.
They might not, they might think, oh, I actually quite like them, but I'm going to spend a bit of time getting to know them before I buy anything. If you're not on Apple Music or Amazon Music or Spotify or Deezer or whatever people are using, they're going to forget you.
Mhm.
They will. Whereas if they're there and they go, oh yeah, I'm just going to add them to my library and have another listen to them later, and then they might go on your store and then they might become a fan. So actually, it's like Dave said, it's a marketing tool.
And again, with the day and age now, and I know this is again up to the individual. It took me a while to figure out how to, let's say, project myself on social media to be, I don't know what the word is, approachable or accepted. I don't know. But as a band, it used to be back in the day, if you liked the band, the only time you ever got to actually see them and meet them is when they came through town.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when you did get to meet them, hopefully you were able to get their ear for a second, get an autograph, get a picture, and that was awesome. And if they really engaged you, you'll remember that the rest of your lives. It's never been easier now with social media that if you got someone that can man the accounts, you have to be on social media, period. And depending on what your goals are, if you want to go full tilt and let's say your end game is you want to make this a life and a living and record and hopefully latch on to a label or whatever, I don't know. It's so different now. Like what is successful now? I say forget about the big labels. I don't think we need them. Smaller labels now have more power than ever. All you have to do is look at the Billboard rock charts right now. There's actually more independent labels on there than there are major labels. And that's huge.
Yeah.
So again, level the playing field. But if you got, if you're on social media, once you get a fan, like Verdi said, you catch a fan's ear at a gig, festival, wherever, maybe opening in a different town, a strange town for someone else you just happen to be going through. You get 1, 2, 10, 100, who knows? And then they get home and they go, how about that band Verdi White? Oh yeah, did you buy anything? Oh shit, no. Well, let's go online, go on Twitter, whatever. Go find it. And you're not there? Then what?
Yeah.
But if you find her and then they follow you or maybe they chip in, buy the music, who knows, whatever. But and then if they really like you and you say, oh, I caught you over and wherever, you were awesome. And then you answer back, now you got a fan for life. That's the connection. Something that's the bands back in the day. Like I never got to meet 90% of my heroes, let's say. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, I think, in some ways, because I've seen it go the other way as well, in that it's expected of a band to be stood up in the crowd out front, talking to everybody that wants to talk to them.
No, that's wrong.
Etc. Etc. Oh, yes, it's wrong, but it's expected.
Yeah,
right. Before the show, after the show, inside, outside, online. If you don't respond to a message quick enough,
oh, I've had it.
All of this crap, right? We've all had it.
Yep.
And it's.
And you just
I find it quite difficult because you have to be able to draw a line under it.
Well, you do. That's where I say be right up front. You know.
Oh, that's why I tend to take over a lot of the social media for the bands that I work with, because I tend to put a big Foxtrot Oscar in there whenever it comes to it, whereas the bands themselves probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I deal with it and shut them down.
Right. You're supposed to, and again, this is just where it's reflecting just in general how people are nowadays. Entitlement.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, instant gratification as well. People,
right.
Because of Spotify, Netflix, you want what you want and you get it now. It's instant gratification. You don't like this, you can switch to something else. If something doesn't come back to you straight away, then you'll move somewhere else. So everyone does expect instant gratification. I mean, like Dave said, I've had it before where I've had people that get really funny if I don't come back to them straight away, and it does get really, really draining, and you can get yourself into a really, really mental health damaging cycle whereby you feel like you don't have any other life apart from posting and replying to people on social media, and it can make you really, really sick. And so, I think that it's important to understand that it can get really overwhelming, and for you to set your own boundaries with that kind of thing as well. So you're like, okay, I know I'm going to be online between this time and this time, or I'm going to do some stints here and here, or whatever. But actually, you're not constantly available, and you set that precedent that you won't always get back to people straight away.
That's the trick. Yep. And another thing that the social media gurus, that they call them, say over time, what you want to do is start scaling back how many people you follow back.
Yeah.
And set that precedent, like you said.
And I mean, I don't even check my DMs really on much of it anymore. Mainly Twitter's been a problem for me because of unsolicited photographs. And I don't really check my DMs on Twitter really at all anymore because of that.
Keith, stop.
And it shouldn't be like that, but it is. Dave, stop sending them. No, but all seriousness, it's very easy for someone to send you something like that.
Yeah, that's across the board with social media in general. So, these are new problems that come with today.
It's disgusting.
Yeah,
if I ever find anybody that I know that's done that, then that's when the Asda bag comes out. Yeah, it's if you want photos of me and me mankini, just ask.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to send something like that. I don't understand how people can even think that that's the done thing, right?
I know, right? How messed up have you got to be to think that that's okay?
Yeah. Something? This has got nothing to do with us, but not social media. The internet has created a haven for people that have always been out there to find their underground existence. And I started to realize this years ago when I saw how many times it came up swingers. People that swing. I didn't even really understand. I mean, I kind of knew, but and it's huge. And I'm like, it's like, I think 30% of the people walking down the street are all, intermingling with each other. It's really bad. But the internet, is just given a place for everybody. And a lot of the really bad ones too that you see, put it this way, you're getting pictures of these strangers, but you also got these jackasses like Chris, the Chris Hansen thing that he was exposed in Dateline. The predators are out there.
Yeah.
And I even say this again, and I said this to a lot of the younger female artists and just artists in general. The more you get popular on social media, be on the lookout. Again, you don't know who that person really is on the other side.
But those predators are there, and they're not just sexual predators. You have plenty of monetary predators, especially in the music business. People who are like, oh, I've got this PR firm and I want to sign you, but you need to give me this money first. Or, oh, I've got this, and you need to give me this first. Oh, we can arrange this and here's, and we've worked with these people who've had, sign this and give me some money. The amount of people out there
sharks
that are happy to run you out of money is absolutely disgusting. And it's, anyone new in the business, it's very overwhelming, and also you kind of think, oh, well, if I only pay £100, they're going to give me like 5,000 Spotify streams. It's like, they're fake, and that's not okay.
No, that's the same. It's all, again, the way they do that is, it's like with they also prey on the elderly with fake insurance, all this shit. You owe the IRS, all this kind of stuff. They figure if they get 1 out of 100, and then they do, they make knows what. But I love the ones I like having fun with. It's kind of like when you get the call for the auto insurance, the ones that message me and say, we can get you more followers, blah, 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 blah. And they got 300 followers and I've got 25. I'm like,
they've always got like 173 followers. Well, you're like, can
you? You're like the worst, what is it? Financial advisor ever. I'm bankrupt, but I can make you a millionaire.
Trump's Financial Advice Limited.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was thinking.
TFA.
The first thing came into my head was Trump. Yeah. Unbelievable.
One thing we haven't addressed in over 2 hours is really now the things that you were telling me a little bit about before, Dave, is now you guys are now all starting to work together.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Let's just say it. The reason I know you is I fell in love with a band that you were representing that I guess right now is in limbo.
Tomorrow is lost.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean that to me, my personal opinion, I couldn't fucking believe it when I found out that they were like breaking up, whatever. And, that happens. That's normal. That's life. That's
yeah.
But until whatever happens there, something happens, great or not, but you got to move on. Now, between Keith and you have Thea, you have Verity White. I forgot, I wrote them all down. Who the hell are they? Oh.
Hell's Addiction, you tweeted.
Fourth Labyrinth, Paula Mafia, Shine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I finally went to your website, Bad Dog, Ryan Webb, you got Electric Black too. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So
you got a really decent, bunch of artists. It's it's no joke because I know just about all of them. And somewhere along the line, I didn't even put the two together that you would do WDFD. Sorry.
No, and you shouldn't to some extent because it's not about WDFD, that it is about the artists ultimately. But like you, with the Keep Rock Alive banner, you still have to have a presence. You still have to have an identity. So that's what WDFD is. And then, we just pool our experience and resources and try to pull in other people with the same ethos as us to try and give the artists the best chance that we can for all the reasons that we've talked about tonight, because it's very difficult. And although an artist can do everything these days, in theory, in practice, they don't have the time, the expertise, the whatever. So you need a support framework around you, in all probability. And that's what we are. We're not a traditional label handing out money in exchange for your firstborn child. We're just there to try and provide all the bits that you will need, but you've still got to work your asses off. Kyle and Verity know that and do that. That nobody's got that magic bullet anymore. So we just try and provide that, but we're under no illusions. We're very small fish in a very large pond, and that's okay. But we can help some good artists hopefully get more exposure than they would have done otherwise. And you never know, maybe if we can improve our helmet playing on TikTok, then somebody will break big time.
I think that's the key. Is it's all about the bands and giving them the platform to do what they do in the best way for them to do it. Right? It's not about me. It's not about Keith. It's not about Kyle as an individual. It's about the bands that are working with us and making that the face of everything we're trying to do. So that it's like, I don't like being that person that people go, oh, that's the guy that's the call of the wild guy. That's tomorrow's lost manager. I hate that shit. I quite like being in the background, out of the way, because basically I don't like people. Right? I just want to be myself, do what I do, and just leave me alone.
You're never in the background, out of the way, Dave.
I am. I just keep getting dragged forward.
Yeah.
Well, I just keep getting dragged into the mire.
Just scare the shit out of people.
There's only one time I ever recognized Dave, and I turned on the history. What was it? It was History Channel.
What, Dave was on the History Channel?
Yeah.
That was like what's the name of it? Was that Fishburne is doing the
Lawrence Fishburne, yeah.
And I see him and I go, and I started laughing. That's what he does.
Yeah, my day job.
Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
That was for the Antarctica trip, yeah.
Is your husband calling you to bed, Verity? Hi, Alex.
Hey, dude.
Hello.
Yeah, he was like, where are you?
Yeah.
He's busy making friends with woodlice outside. But yeah.
Crustaceans. Life is not the same for him without you, Verity.
I know. What can I say?
Yeah. Even for 2 hours, that's it. Kyle's been at work all day.
We all have.
No, your dad got a break today. I never called him.
Oh.
He got left alone for a change.
No, it's eat, sleep, rinse, repeat. That is life. We've gone from total nothingness, stay at home, do nothing, say nothing, you are nothing, to a wax strip on your bum crack, slap on the arse into the Arctic. Off you go, Sonny Jim. But yeah,
that's erotic.
Is it good? All right. I'll let you get to Alex then.
Off I go.
Take that image.
I can't wait to tell him about your bum crack, Kyle.
Well, everyone else knows about it. It's in many of my Instagram posts and one of my TikToks. So it's public domain now.
A lot, to be fair, you do get naked a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I promoted the latest album with nudity.
And as did Keith, which was
I must have missed that one.
Yeah.
It's still there. The internet. Nothing ever goes.
Most people have a flashback Friday. We just have a flashes Friday.
Yeah.
It'll all come back to haunt you when you're famous.
Well, I'll look back at my youthful body and weep, but I don't look like that anymore.
Oh my God, I look like my dad now.
Yeah. Cool.
So I guess what's next is what's next. I guess just so for you guys, it's wait for the 19th.
For gigging, live music, and getting back out.
So I've already had a few gigs, and we've got another one this weekend. But yeah, our main stuff is until later in the year. So
yeah, for me, it's writing, burrowing away, preparing. We've got gigs in the calendar as well, and all of them now do fall beyond July 19th. But some of them are still in question because of that pushback, people's confidence in buying a ticket to an event that is admittedly outside the restrictions being lifted, but they're waiting until the lift, until they commit.
Yeah.
So there's hesitation all round, but that doesn't mean that we're not prepped and ready to fire the gun.
Yeah, I can't blame them because so many people went through that. There's been so many rotations that are happening and people are actually losing money too, having trouble getting money back. Look what happened with Live Nation over here.
And we still don't know if people will turn out in the same numbers as they used to. We just don't know.
I'll tell you what, I can answer that over here at least. We've been at 100% now in the state, 2 weeks? So Yankees and Mets, baseball. And I actually had to double check to see if they were at 100% yet, and they were. Even for like the bigger events, Yankees versus Red Sox, which is a huge rivalry. It wasn't like, I think there's going to be a bit of a regaining confidence over time kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that makes sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and even just, again, I've been down to the city a bunch of times in the last 2 months. I've only had to stand in the subway twice on a weekday.
Yeah.
That never, on the main lines too, and that never happens, especially in the middle of the day or rush hour or something like that. But it's slowly coming back, but it's, that could also be a population thing. It's like I said, it's mostly locals, no tourism yet. I think once we start crossing the waters again, and you got to remember also, I guess Canada is still in lockdown.
Yeah, parts of Canada are. I've quite a few mates live there at the minute, and they were having real problems getting back in after we finished the project in Oregon last month, a couple of months ago. You couldn't fly in without having to go into quarantine, no matter where you lived, but you could drive in and drive home to go into quarantine.
Yeah, I saw somebody posted a picture of Niagara Falls from the Canadian side the other day, from like that old Seagram's Tower or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
It was a worker, obviously nobody, just no visitor, and they showed the Canadian side barren, and you see the American side packed, and the Maid of the Mist. They're all lined up there, but nobody. Literally, you could throw across the Niagara River. And they said, Jesus. What's the difference between there and here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just, showed you there the difference. Eventually.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a weird year for the rest of this year, even after things open up. And I think that, it's one of the reasons why we haven't planned our own tour until we're not planning anything until sort of spring 2022 for our own tour, because I don't feel like I want to spend loads of money on preparing a tour for it not to sell as well as it potentially could. So yeah, I think it's a case of lots of gigs, but like a lot of festivals sort of.
Well, that's another thing I tell fans in general. Don't steal music. It costs these bands.
Gigs, but yeah, it's.
Oh,
sorry, I think everything went a bit funny there.
No, you know what? You dropped out, and I was stepping on you.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll stop talking. I talk too much anyway.
I think you were on about stealing from bands. It's a weird matter of pride, though, if that's what we're talking about with torrenting and downloading. I found all of our albums on torrent sites and illegal download pages. I was kind of like, wow, okay.
No.
Yeah, woo, made it.
Yeah, people want to steal from us. Fine.
Yeah. Well, my point.
That large.
I always try to remind people, just because the register's open doesn't mean you can reach in and steal the money. Yeah. Nobody's looking. If you're really supporting these bands, it costs money. It costs money to go on the road. It costs money to rent a room. It costs money for everything. Just like I say, what do you do for a living? Oh, well, you don't expect to do that for free just because I can do it myself too. But if I hire you, I got to pay you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. That's all I say. Oh, well, we used to copy, no. Sometimes if we stole a record, or if we, recorded music off the radio onto cassette, it sounded like shit. Yeah. Most of the time we went to the record store and bought it. So don't give me that crap.
Yeah.
Do the right.
You did. Yeah, you eventually went and bought it.
Yep.
But waiting on Tommy Vance on a Friday night with your two fingers sitting on the record and the play button on your tape deck, just for that one song that you loved, and you want, that's the one I want, and you're like, go.
Or you're in the bathroom and it finally comes up.
Yeah.
You run out,
Yeah.
fall on your face, tripping over your pants.
Yeah.
So,
And he talks over the last 30 seconds of
Yeah.
it because he's introducing the next one. And you're like, yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what made it fun.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I recorded Call Me by Blondie on 8-track. I don't know why. Way back in the day. And there was this one spot where it just went, it blurred. I don't know what happened. Bad part of the tape. And for years, I would remember hearing it. That it would go, to this day, if I'm listening, I'll still remember. But again, that's music. You know, that's what made it. But as long as we all did the right, I don't know how many times, especially us, the older guys, we've bought music on so many different platforms over the years, you know, the different medias. I don't owe them anything.
Yeah.
I should have a gig in my backyard.
Yeah.
Free. But
Be there.
the flip side is fans today, just because you can just about find it everywhere and anywhere, it doesn't mean steal it. Because that's what you're doing, is stealing it. Reach in, go to Bandcamp or go to their website first. Try to get them as much money as possible. That's what I tell everybody. Try to buy direct. If you can't, yeah, then, you know, use your preferred media. That's fine. But don't steal it.
Yeah. Again, something else that's changed, because most bands, if they're signed to a label, are tied into some kind of 360 deal.
Mm.
So you can't even go and buy a CD from some of those bands because the label still takes their cut and everything else. Right? We don't do that as WDFD. That's, Keith didn't set it up that way, and it's never the intention to do that. So whatever the bands, like CDs, merch, all that kind of stuff, that belongs to the bands. And for my money, and certainly Keith's, a label's got absolutely no right to take any of that. Right?
Well,
Things have changed. Things have changed, and they have to change even further, especially when it comes to that side of it.
Well, again, back in the day, let's say, I always say pre-Napster, you know, the labels made money literally on every step of the process.
Mhm.
Right down to the guy walking the box into the record store, you know, the truck, the artwork, the legal, bookkeeping, the guy out on the road scouting, you know, all that. And that's all gone. And I think it's finally come full circle in this last year where, and this is where I say the value, they can't ignore the value of independent music right now. Because like I said, it's starting to take, you know, it's crept in, and their control, like you were saying, where I think Keith said it before, that where they're at every door in music, policing. They weren't allowed to police, or they couldn't police it last year. And it really didn't affect so much on the production level of independent music. Whereas I think the big labels weren't outfit to, let's say, endure what you guys went through last year, where you were able to get your music out there. It was tougher for those, the big labels to operate in the way that there's, let's say, a custom where it was, okay, we're gonna hit, you know, our writers are gonna 8 songs for this individual, and we're gonna produce it, record it, and send them out on the road for an arena tour. That all went out the window. What was it? I think it was Taylor Swift. What did she put out? Like 2 or 3 albums in the last year and a half? Had nothing else to do. There's no money, and people weren't buying it. It had streams, and they made, whatever, they made money, but they didn't make the money that they normally make. She took a hit. They took a hit just on that. Whereas all of a sudden, like I said, in the last now 4 or 5 months, beginning of the year, just watch the charts. It's happening. There's labels at first I never heard of, and then there's labels that I know that we've been, let's say, supporting over the last couple of years, that all of a sudden they're number 2 on the mainstream rock chart. And I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome. You know, Billboard, kitty kitty, chubby kitty.
It's like
She's my
somebody's
little
about,
girl.
yeah, somebody's coming down to tell you it's bedtime, aren't they?
Yeah, she really has. She's like, Mummy, it's bedtime.
Well,
Yeah, long past.
if you guys, like I said to Dave, you know, this is for you guys. So over the next couple of days, I'll cut out some. Did I step on you?
No, it's fine. I was just saying I'm gonna need to go because
No,
it's getting quite late. I've got work at the place.
But Verity, it was great talking to you. I'll keep in touch.
I'm gonna go and film some nude videos for TikTok.
And me, strangely.
No, we're not doing it together. No.
Wow.
I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, V. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
All right, Kyle.
Now, what? Are we taking
Now the party starts. But is there anything else you guys want? Like I said, if there's anything you guys wanted to air, the floor is yours.
Huge thank you.
I think we've covered so much. I mean, and there's still more we could cover. We could be here forever, couldn't we? We haven't, as you say, talked about certain issues like Brexit and whatever, which is not. But you know, we just go around in circles really because we've got no answers to these questions. I think the main thing is whatever's thrown at us, we've got to, even though some days it's difficult, we've got to retain a positive attitude. We've got to look for the opportunities rather than, oh God, you know, yeah, we can't do this, we can't do that, you know. What can we do instead? And that's why it's, you know, without blowing smoke up yours, mate, you know, it's nice when somebody's being positive out there and trying to put the best positive spin on things. Because there's enough doom and gloom, and we can all get down, and we do all have down moments. But you know, you as an individual, and as a label, and as an industry, and as a father, and so on, you've got to try more often than not to look for the opportunities and the positives.
As you know, and me as a father, and I've got kids, and you know, I worry about what are they going to have to do to survive in this world. It's like I don't have an answer.
Yeah,
no. The whole fucking the rules or whatever has changed. Everything's changed.
Yeah.
Normally, I have an answer, even if I come up with a bullshit answer. I don't have an answer now. But you know, when I hear, I really didn't understand. Still, you guys are probably where we were 6 months ago. And I know, you know, in a few weeks, you're going to shift gears from first gear to overdrive, you know, just like that. And that's great. And we hope it all sticks, but they don't give you enough. It would have been nice to say, or at least there'd been some kind of more of a heads up or more of a, let's say, I don't know, more guarantees in this or something. And still to help you guys recuperate from what was lost in the last year.
Yeah.
That's not going to go away.
No, it isn't. I mean, luckily, all three of us here, or not, but, you know, from this side, we all have day jobs. And Kyle, you know, as he said, you know, going right back a year and a half ago, had to give up his job because his employer wouldn't let him have the time off to go on tour, whatever. So he had to make that call. And then just after he did that, the pandemic came in, the whole thing collapsed. He was with no money. But we've got through. We are where we are today. We can cry about that, but we can't change it now. So we've got to go forward. I'm glad I'm not making the decisions. I wouldn't want to be in government trying to, you know, say what's the right thing to do. It's much easier to say what they've done wrong. And yeah, there's been so many things so unfair.
See, I wish you were in government, because then you'd have been able to hand me multi-million-pound contracts for doing something I had no idea how to do, and I could have spent it all promoting Kyle and the rest of the bands.
Yeah, but I'm fair.
Just why don't you just come? Then you just come here. That's what we do.
It's like, yeah, I
What
would.
about the United States now?
we can't even afford to come to the United States. We'd love to come and tour the United States, but it's so expensive for the visitors to get over there. You can't do it. As a small band, you can't do it. It's unrealistic. So we used to have Europe that we could do. Now that at the moment, we're hoping it will change, but at the moment, that is an absolute nightmare.
Even sayonara to that too, yeah.
Particularly merchandise, which is, as you said, Mike, is where we can make a bit of money. Merchandise now to Europe, it's an absolute nightmare.
Well, that's the only thing that I semi-understand over there. What, maybe not how that decision was, how they came to that conclusion to make this change, but what was to gain out of it? I still don't understand. Why make it harder on business?
We were lied to, basically. And a lot of people fell for the lie. Yeah, what can you say? It's, you know, I didn't vote for it, but I'm not claiming to be smug in that sense because it's a tragedy. But I did weigh both sides up because I could see pros and cons. But basically, the one side turned out, we didn't know it at the time, but turned out to be a complete lie. But
the
again,
only thing that I can compare it to would be like living here in the States and saying, okay, I'm 20 minutes from the Pennsylvania line. For you to go into Pennsylvania and do any kind of business means there's going to be, you know, a 6-week waiting period, and you need this, which would make no sense.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's akin to that. It does make no sense, but again, we can't change it. We can get upset about it, but we can't change it as we stand. So it does affect things. Kyle's band Thea still are due to go off on tour in Europe next year. But whether it's going to actually happen, not just because of the pandemic, but as I say, because of the finances, don't know.
Basically, for people that don't understand, when I tell them, the way it used to be is it was easy for you to access for bands from, let's say, Britain, to access all your neighboring countries as easily, basically, as we do states.
Yeah.
We just go.
Yeah.
And that's it. And now they made it basically an international incident for you to cross any internet.
Make sure you go.
And vice versa, of course. Europe, bands, and Dave knows this with Call of the Wild. It's a lot more difficult to bring European bands to Britain. So it works both ways, but nobody benefits. That's what we can't see. Nobody's benefiting.
That's what I don't understand. What is the positive side of this? What is their fucking mindset that they said, okay, yeah, but what?
Exactly. We don't know. We don't know. But no, I think you've been a great host, and we've covered so many things tonight, so that we can look back on and hopefully get a few snippets. So really appreciate you.
Dave and I, over the last year and a half now, we've
giving us this platform. It's a privilege.
And like I said,
appreciate it.
I'm sure we'll talk a lot more, and as things change and you guys get rolling again, you know the deal. It's easy with me to send me everything you got. What I'll do is I'll get a copy of this to Dave through email, and you guys can do whatever you want with it. So once I send you, it'll be in replays on YouTube. It stays on there. But if there's any, I'll send you the actual file so you can clip it out, use whatever. If there's something, a good talking point or something, use it any way you like. And if I find something, that's what I do. I put out the 2-minute clips and the link back to YouTube, and I tag everybody. So, and then again, if the other bands, you never have to ask. Let's say, Electric Black said, "Hey, we want on. You want to do something? Just let me know." That's all.
Awesome.
So what I've done now, especially now, and I've said this to Dave, I've shrunk the circle very tight now. It's just about throwing out new music. The people that are closest to, let's say, me this way, and that's it. I'm not looking to get big again and doing so many as I was. It was actually starting to get to be like work.
Yeah, that's
it's no fun.
And I got plenty of drama in the real world. So, it's bottom line is we all have the same problem. and it's just, you do what you gotta do. One day at a time.
We're the only species that pays to live on this planet.
That's true.
And the other ship that's watching us is laughing.
Yeah.
And saying, they think it's round.
Why do they think we want to probe their asshole? Again, imagination limited, whatever. I'm not this much of a cynic in real life. I am quite a jolly person.
I used to be, but something. This last year has changed a lot of my perspective.
Yeah.
It really has made the same thing. I'm cynical about a lot of things that I wasn't. But you know what? With good reason. I mean, just turn on the fucking news. Some of the shit that I see, I'm like, we're really living in a bad movie. It's really comes down to it.
Can't trust the news anymore either. Yeah,
and we watch something like Black Mirror and go, "Wow, those were the days." Yeah, I wish life was like that.
Well, I'm going to let my dogs out.
All right,
because they're going to mutiny and make a cup of tea. I can't thank you enough for you've been a great host and keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Get going. Kyle, be good. Say hi to the guys.
I will. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and from me, Verity, and everyone else, WDFD. Yeah. I can't wait to watch some of it back as well. That'll be nice.
At the lunch. It's almost 3 hours long.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks. No problem, mate. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a good one. Ta-ra, Cal.
Bye, guys.
Peace. And then there were two. Well, I really had no idea what you guys are still going through out there.
Yeah, the whole situation's a nightmare, mate. It's just the Brexit thing, the government, the way they are, the way they're. But people still vote for them.
And you know something?
And it's like, come on.
Oh, you know what I wanted to say to you, and I tell this to a lot of people too when I'm talking to my buddy at night when he's coming home from work. Nothing changes. And when I say nothing changes, you hear all this. There are things going on in this planet that I don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I try to be careful and always try to ride the middle with Keep Rock Alive. Obviously, again, we all have our opinions, but I don't want to distract people from what I'm trying to do here. I don't want them to, and the reason I started doing this was two things. 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever it was, if you said Mike's going to be doing, you should start doing live streams, I'd say, yeah, you're fucking mind. I don't even like some taking my picture. Something hit me that said, hey, practice what you preach. Why not have some fun? Things were still shitty then. And I wanted to put a face on Keep Rock Alive that I'm just a fan. And I try to tell people that. I'm just a fan that loves the music and I'm sick of it looking up at this crap. That's really the basis. And what I really do is, I'm hoping one day that this kid makes it, meaning Mariah. Today, it's proof of where she is. And I wish all these bands, because there was a time when all these, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 10, we rule, when, what was that video, when metal ruled the world?
Yeah.
It could happen again, and I would love to see it happen again. But what the hell was I saying? But you look around, and what the hell was I? I was going to use that fucking analogy again. I completely forgot.
That happens to me all the time, man. Yeah, it's one of them things. You're getting older in it.
Yeah, I know.
I've got to start keeping notes.
But I'm sorry. Now I remember. Everything that we've watched in the last year that happened, pandemic, people wanting to kill each other, all this crazy shit, burning down cities, blah, 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 blah. I love listening to old radio on YouTube. This video of the old actual shows, radio from New York City, WABC, WNBC in the 70s. And it's the old DJs I grew up with. And, they go on for like half-hour chunks. and they take out the music. You hear the intro and you hear the outro, and then, but what you hear then is the commercials and the news.
Mm.
You listen to the news from mid 70s, even late 60s, late 70s, early 80s. Nothing's changed.
No.
Same exact news, same exact hate, fighting, unemployment, government, racism. And this is something a few people have gotten mad at me for saying this, but I'm realistic. I don't agree with racism at all. I watch, like I said, I brought my kid down to the city the other day, and I showed him, I said, look how everybody, when you get out in the open, suddenly you don't feel it, and everybody's chilling it. It's because they're being fed. But when it comes down to it, there's always going to be racism. There's always going to be hatred. There's always going to be somebody wants to be better than the other person. That's human beings. I don't care. It's always going to exist. You're setting an unrealistic goal by saying we can eliminate it. No, you're never going to eliminate it. Doesn't mean you have to be okay with it. You can fight back. And the music has always been the one thing that unifies people. We're always concentrating on the wrong things. And it just keeps dividing people more and more. So I focus on the music, and that's it. But, I know in 50 years, whatever there is that you can look back, and if they play the news from today, they're going to say, wow, it was no different then than it is now. And that's the reality.
I think you're right. It's pretty much nail on the head. Yeah. But as far as all of it goes, I think I'm at a point, I don't know. I'm not beyond caring, because it affects my kids. It affects all of that. Mm-hmm. It affects the bands I work with. It affects the people I work with. It affects family. It affects everything. And you're right. It's never, history just constantly repeats itself. And everybody says the same thing. We can't let history repeat itself. But what changes?
Nothing.
And it's more difficult now to make that change, because I honestly think way too many people are just browbeaten down into this is how it is. And they're not prepared to make that stand like they used to, even as recently as the 70s.
What were we saying earlier? One of the earliest things we said while we were chatting was, where are the people now? Like, with everything that's going on, I don't hear anybody screaming. Mm. When I say I hear people screaming over things that, just that it's constantly rehashed. And then when it quiets down, you notice the media ignites it again.
Ignite something.
Those controlling things, like Kyle said, that the guy that's shaking the jar, that's that guy. But the things that are the everyday things that affect your life, just surviving, the artists that are devalued into being told that they're worthless. And when I say artists, I mean everybody, from the guy guy in the park painting, whatever you would consider an artist, the woodworker, anybody. What we're talking about, yes, obviously, when things happen, we needed to eat, you needed to keep the fuel going, you needed to keep the electric on, the basics. But all of a sudden, why was it, I said, and this is true over here, Walmart was able to go, constantly, right through it all, never took a hit. It's not, I expected, honest to God, when I went to Walmart the first time when this thing really hit, and I pull out onto the street and there was nobody on the road. That's how, when it got that quiet, and I was watching some videos from New York City of it, literally a ghost town during the day.
Jesus.
I mean, it was a ghost town, nobody in the city. But you go to Walmart, I thought they were going to have the store divided off, meaning the food section, supermarket, or what we call it, and maybe essentials. But no, you can go get your tires, get your. They were able to go 100%, meaning their function, 100%. Go in there, buy whatever, video games, You had to wear
Yeah.
a mask, and the only thing they monitored was as you went in, whatever the square footage of each store was, they monitored
The number of people that were going in. Yeah.
so came out, two went in. And fine, okay. But I never realized, I never looked at it the other way until time went on. But why is it they can be open? So why can't Sears be open? Or JCPenney be open? Well, why can't Macy's be open? They said that, like you said, you were going to meet all the criteria for safety. And then they would come up with something else to take your legs out from under you. That's what they were doing. So what was the reason? Where's the money being made? You know what I mean? And then you start to become cynical.
Cynical, yeah.
And that's what happened to me. And you know something? Without enough people fighting, they know even though let's say you're right, and maybe you could win in court, they know you don't have that power, whether it's financially, whatever, to stand up to them in court, to go through with it. So you end up just laying down. It's kind of like fighting a traffic ticket that you know you didn't. It's better off to just pay the friggin' ticket than take them to court. It's the same thing, even though you're right. And that's the way it's always going to be. Same thing. And that's ultimate control. And I call it, here, maybe our two countries are similar in this way. As bad as we think we got it,
I think so.
It's a lot worse, too. And I'd rather be here through this whole mess than.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because there's
absolutely
a really sweet woman we talked to from Curtain Call Records, Sal Quintero, and you could see the fear in her eyes when we were talking to her, and just the hurt a few months ago, and they were really in trouble. And again, I didn't know, and I'm like, wow, we think we got it bad, but that's bad.
Yeah,
they had no light at the end of the tunnel at that point. They had nothing going on. No vaccinations. The hospitals were overrun, and people,
look what happened in India.
Yeah, same kind of thing.
And
finally,
unbelievable.
But that's bad, and a government that basically is non-existent, through all of it, and they couldn't care less. The only thing I did say about India was, whatever happened didn't happen. They have 1.3 billion people in that country. We have 360,000 here, and we were just barely able to hang on as the quote unquote strongest country in the world. And just kind of squeak through this. So
the population density thing is a big thing. I think that's why Canada went with the locus. Their population's not exactly dense, right? They've got little pockets.
Yeah.
But it's one of the most sparsely populated countries of them all, which I didn't realize, but it made perfect sense, for why they locked down the way they did. But hopefully we're coming out of it. We can get back together, get a gig going, get a festival going outside, and just
I think
have a beer in a field with friends.
Yeah, I haven't there hasn't been anything yet major over here. I think the first real concert they had last weekend, Foo Fighters with,
they played at the Garden, yeah.
That was kind of like a posturing kind of thing to say, hey, we're back.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be till I think next spring will be the first, let's say, structured, real, season starting again everywhere at the same time. I really think rock and roll is going to come out squashing a lot of this other stuff because people are just tired of it.
Here's hoping, buddy. Here's hoping.
I'm serious. It's enough of the sugar-coated crap that, people want the real thing and want to be able to scream. And that's where you said it. I say it all the time. When I'm talking to the band, I go, that's up to you. I don't know how to do it. I can sit there and play along with you.
That's a big part of what we work with them for. Yeah, that's why we work with them, to help them out with all of that.
Creativity. That's up to you. Write it. If you're I always say, if you're 20 years old and you're you're an artist and you're writing music, it's in you. What are you what are you going through? What are your friends going through? What's in your brain that's saying, write this?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it, and we can't relate because what are your peers? You know, because back when, you know, I said it's so hard to remember, but back when I was in my teens, we were listening to the bands that, you know, that you think they're old, but you go, wait a minute, they're only a couple years older than me.
Yeah.
They were writing about us because we were
Yeah.
all the same.
That's the thing. And I think it's the same with all the bands as well. They're all writing about the same things.
I think the other thing,
as they were 25, 30, 40, 45 years ago.
and the other,
You know, it's all the same things.
Yep. And the only other thing that I think has changed, and I brought it up a little bit, was the gauging level of success, to say, in music nowadays. You know, the days of that, living, you know, getting that big mega contract, and buying the Ferraris and living that lifestyle, you know, that rock star lifestyle, buying the big house on the hills in Malibu. I don't think that exists anymore, except for a very, very, very select few.
Yeah. You got to wonder who's going to be the next stadium rock band.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was saying about the last time we had that splash band being, you know, Nirvana. We have a lot of great bands, but that legendary change culture, put the fear of God into everybody, that even people that don't know who they are and don't even listen to them know. Oh, Nirvana? Oh, yeah, I know them. Guns.
Yeah, I don't think it even needs to go that far. It's like, who's going to step up and take over that slot that Iron Maiden hold right now?
Mm-hmm. No, I'll be honest, you know, this isn't a knock to any bands, it's just a different time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so many, people exposed to so many different things in bands right now. Like I said to Kyle before, that when we listened to music as kids, you turned on the radio, whatever song was playing at that moment, you had to listen to it. You had no choice. That was it. And if you wanted the next song, you had to listen to the whole song. And that was it. Wait for the next one. Now you can just beep, you know, just keep skipping or slipping or swiping, whatever you do. You know, it's just the information is just, today is too much. Information overload. It's diluted. It has diluted everything. And it's somewhat, I'm going to say somewhat, it has devalued music that way because we've allowed it to.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get that power back.
You're not going to get it back.
No.
You just have to deal with the situation we're in now.
And that's why I tell these kids, you know, do it because you love it. And if you can make a living at it, great, that's a bonus. But if you're going in and you know, it's kind of, I say it's like gambling with scared money. If you go to a casino and you bring $500, don't ever expect to see that 500 again before you walk in. But if you walk in hoping you don't lose it, don't do it.
Don't go. Yeah.
You're gonna have a horrible night. Never gamble with scared money. Same thing. Keep your job, do your thing. Meet your bandmates at night or whatever you got to do, and gig on the weekends and see what happens. Because everyone's in the same boat.
Yep, 100%.
All right, but I'll let you go, Dave. Wow, that's 3 hours, almost to the minute.
Jesus Christ.
We're either really full of shit. We got plenty more. Tons of
yeah, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of conversations to be had. Whether we're the people to have them or not is another matter. But
I always tell everybody, always give your opinion. Should never, we can argue over opinions. We can even fight over opinions. We should never divide over opinions.
Yeah, agreed.
And, you know, there's times that people post something or say something, I go, geez, you know, what the fuck, you know, and I'm gentle about it. But, you know, it has to be said, because the worst thing that can happen after we have all these discussions and brainstorm or whatever is nothing. But if you don't do anything, you're guaranteed nothing.
Yeah.
The only way to make change is force change. And that's one thing rock and roll has always been able to do, is not just make change, it forces change. And it forces it through the music.
Yep, completely.
Other than that, tomorrow, we're all going to be doing it's supposed to be like 100 degrees here and 125% humidity. I've been sitting dying. I had to open the door because I'm in my little cubby. And during the day, because of the light, I had to keep the window closed, and it turned into a fucking oven here by hour one. I was like this.
That's not so bad over here. It's what, like 20 degrees, 25 degrees.
Yeah, today we hit
Centigrade, obviously, and nice and sunny, but it's just nice. So it's good.
Yeah, we've had a little heat wave again. I'll take it. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, beats 10 foot of snow.
We get that too.
Yeah, I know. All right, mate. Well, thank you very much for doing this and setting it up.
That was fun.
You know,
I enjoyed
yeah.
talking this bullshit. This is the fun to me. I don't do interviews
Yeah.
like the bullshit.
Just talk. That's it. You know, it's not about putting the world to rights or whatever. Just have a conversation.
Exactly. You're ready.
Yep.
I'll let you go.
All right, brother. I'll be in touch.
You got it, man. Be good.
Take care, Mike.
Rock on.